Hello everybody, welcome to the 86th edition of Gent-Wevelgem in Flanders Fields. Classic season in full swing, and this is the end of week one of the Cobbled Classics fortnight that leads to Holy Week, of course, next week, and the Ronde van Vlaanderen. This is Gent-Wevelgem in Flanders Fields. We've already seen the clips there of Christophe Laporte winning last year. Let's have a look back though at how it happened, shall we? 1 year ago, windy, rainy, freezing cold, exactly what you'd like for an edition of Gent-Wevelgem. And as you can see, lots of the riders opted for full-length leg warmers and the works. It was pretty miserable on the way out across the moors, the Muren, and the ride out towards Vern to bring them back towards the hills in the Hoogland. And it was Anthony Turgis who really started to stir things up into the first ascent of the Kemmelberg. This was the second ascent of the Kemmelberg. Christophe Laporte going with Wout van Aert, and the two of them driving clear. They went over the top of Anthony Turgis. You could see there, Caleb Ewan it was, in the colours of Lotto Destiny as it was then 1 year ago, trying to chase after them, but they were gone. The final ascent up the steeper side of the Kemmelberg, it was Wout van Aert who was just going clear and sensing that he had dropped Christophe Laporte, but he waited for him. Had a little look down at his gears, perhaps as he did so, but he knew all the time he was waiting for Christophe Laporte, the Frenchman, to latch on. Wout van Aert in absolutely incredible form last year. And this was the discussion between the two of them as they came back towards the Van Akerenstraat in Wevelgem. The decision that Christophe Laporte would get the win. And so he did. The two of them together, the Killer Bees as they were known throughout most of last season, Jumbo-Visma. Well, Christophe Laporte would cross the line first to become the 85th winner of this big Flemish classic. Wout van Aert in second. I can tell you, neither of those two riders are on the start line, despite how well this man, Wout van Aert, was going in E3 on Friday. But Christophe Laporte will not defend his title. He's not been well either, pulling out of Milan-San Remo last weekend. It was a brilliant third place for Sepp van Marke 1 year ago. The vastly experienced Belgian rider for Israel Premier Tech, delighted with joining that chasing group in amongst Mads Pedersen and others. That was the final podium for the 85th edition of Gent-Wevelgem 1 year ago. Two riders soloing clear, leaving us with only the discussion about which one of them would win to entertain ourselves. 1 year ago, it was me and Adam Blythe. My name's Jez Cox, by the way, and this is the third year in a row that I've been with Adam to bring you this wonderful classic at the start of this, well, what is the run-in to the week of Ronde van Vlaanderen next weekend. Just enjoying the hugs between those two. Let's have a look at the scenes at the start today, though. Around about 7-8 degrees while they were siding on in East. Ready to roll out and be under the Mennen Gate for that traditional start of this vital race of Gent-Wevelgem in Flanders Fields. Dylan Groenewegen looked happier, maybe understandable, knowing what he has to come in the middle of this race. Were it not for the hills of the Hoogland that start after 120k of racing into this long race, he might be smiling a little bit more. As you can see, he wasn't the only one wrapped up warm. Ahead of 253 kilometres in classic Flanders country. The youngest man in the race there, Antonio Morgado, shivering, no less, the Portuguese rider for UAE. Lewis Askey there. Lewis Askey, who was in that leading group in E3 on Friday. So to see how the young Brit goes today. Well, this is the first of a number of interviews that we caught before the start today.
Add this Gent-Wevelgem on your palmarès?
Oh, it's not super important. I'm aware I will not win every race there is on the calendar, but for sure I think it's a really nice race. It's been a while since I've been here at the start line, so I think I'm motivated together with the team to try and win the race.
Do you realize that everybody is calculating his own race on you?
Well, I don't know. It's a different kind of race as well today. I think E3 is a bit easier to really put a lot of attacks in. There's also a lot of wind today, so we will see how the race develops.
And of course, the big question of the day, which Mathieu van der Poel are we going to have? The Mathieu van der Poel from Milan-San Remo helping Jasper Philipsen, or the Mathieu van der Poel from Friday?
I hope from Friday, of course, but I think, yeah, there is
both are strong.
Yeah, for sure, but there is a possibility as well after last time Camel that Jasper is still there, and then I think we just have to communicate like we did in San Remo again. So we will see how we play our cards, but I think there's a lot going to happen before we get at that point.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
All the right questions being asked of Mathieu van der Poel after his ridiculously impressive ride in E3 Prijs on Friday, the E3 Saxo Classic, where he was ridiculously impressive as the solo winner, of course. Looking at a few of the teams that sign on in Ypres in front of a lovely big crowd in Belgium this morning. Matteo Trentin has ridden this race, well, a good few times now at Tudor Pro Cycling, of course, the Swiss team, sharing his experience and worth with that team as well. You know, there, Alexander Kristoff, one of those who did not sign on, sadly. There's Antonio Morgado again. Second time we've seen him, that's interesting. Youngest man in the race, the Portuguese rider, riding for UAE Team Emirates. Let's see how he goes today.
He's more for big guys. Even that doesn't matter. We will try to...
There's a very quick word there with Jonathan Narvaez, the Ecuadorian road race champion. For some of you, this might be a chance to see some of these riders in their new kits. That was Sam Bennett, of course. John Degenkolb. John Degenkolb, of course, one of now 4 former winners in this race. The winner in 2014, Degenkolb. Of course, where the riders were starting from in Ypres, not far from the Menin Gate where they ride out. They come back through it much later on the race as well. Scene of the last post, which is played there every day, early every evening. So this was the official start at 10:40 local time. 173 riders riding out under the currently under repair Menin Gate, where, of course, as many of you will know, there are the names of 54,000 identified but unnamed casualties or dead soldiers named all the way around that really critical piece of war memorabilia. That makes it sound trivial, doesn't it? Let's have a look at these climbs, shall we? Because we'll come back to that and the vital importance of this being in Flanders Fields. Heading out eastward, back in the direction of Wevelgem, in fact, for an opening loop that takes them back through Mooslede. It's a little bit lumpy early on, and then it becomes completely flat as they head towards Brugge de Panne country, over towards Kokzijde and de Panne itself, de Moeren, and back with the tailwind behind them in the direction of Popperinge, going through so many cemeteries en route. We'll see all of that. And then they head for the hills. This is the critical section of this race. Comes after about 120k, straight into the Flemish Heuveland Hills. One big loop of that. Another big loop of the Plugstreets, those ploughed streets, unpaved streets, not cobbles. Back over the Camelberg for one final time, making 3 ascents of the highest point in these hills. And then into the finish on the Van Akerenstraat in Wevelgem. We are just about to join live pictures. We're having a look at a crash earlier today, nasty one too, right at the back, and it involved Jan Tratnik for Team Visma Leasebike. You'd think would have been a vital worker for them today, thinking about Olaf Koy, young Olaf Koy's opportunity to take a win here today. Sorry to tell you, Jan Tratnik out of the race. He had hit his head, of course, went through the concussion protocol test, thankfully, and has been retired from the race. We hope he is okay. The Arkea rider you can see down there is the tall British rider Dan McClay, of course. It looked like he did get back on. This was the entrance to the Moeren. De Moeren, so often the scene of severe crosswinds. We've already talked about Mathieu van der Poel. I've commentated on him flying off the road by himself into one of those dikes on the polders on the De Moeren course in years gone by in Brugge de Panne. So it can happen to anyone. We're about to join live pictures though, but this was where it was all kicking off. So welcome to live pictures with 120 kilometres to go. Close to exiting de Moeren, you can see in the sunshine, I'm pleased to say, it's still not more than about 10 degrees at most, but at least the sunshine is in the sky in West Flanders. We're looking at the back of what I think is Group 2. I'm going to shut up for a minute, though, and see if my good friend and colleague Adam Blythe can make any sense of this. Hey, mate, good to be back with you on this iconic race.
It is good to be back, Jez, and I am happy that we have got some crosswind action. 120 k's to go. 2:28 to the third group. That's the original breakaway just at the top of the screen, and then we've got the chase group of what, 20 riders, if that, 25 riders. So yeah, there's quite a few big names in there as well. Obviously in the white jersey, the world champion Mathieu van der Poel, and then you've got Philipsen, the sprinter, he's in there as well, who won Milan San Remo. Got a couple of riders from Lidl Trek, one of them being Mads Pedersen, the other one Jasper Stuyven, who was second in E3 the other day. So yeah, it is a stacked field, and with de Moeren, that's just happened, that long crosswind section we just saw, it's done this to the peloton, absolutely split it to bits.
Yeah, and look at that already, Adam. We've only just come to live pictures, and already the world champion is at the front, Mathieu van der Poel. He doesn't want to get caught out with anything, does he? We're going to see punctures and all sorts kicking off over the next, what, 30k. Laurent Serrex, winner of Le Semaine this springtime. Rear wheel puncture, unfortunately. Let me just give a shout out, Adam, because they've been away for 100k, to the original 8 guys who we've just seen reel back in. I didn't even get a chance to say who they were. Mathis Lebert, the Frenchman of Arkea B&B Hotels. Mikel Morcu, the Astana rider, of course, the Dane. Dries de Bont got across to them, riding for that new team this year of Decathlon AG Desert, no longer at... no longer at Alpecin de Koning, of course, having been there for years, Dries de Bont, 9 or 10 years. Johan Jacobs, the Swissman for Movistar. Kel O'Brien, the Australian for Jaco Alula. Also in there, Hugo Hu, William Bloom-Levy, and Cyrus Monk, the Aussie. 8 riders. They've been clear all this time. We've just seen them caught looking at these live pictures in the sunshine. It certainly looks a lot nicer than last year, Adam, where it was absolutely miserable at this stage of the race, wasn't it? It does help.
The weather is nice, and the wind is blowing in the correct direction as well. And boy, oh boy, have we got an exciting final as well, because tailwind, cross tailwind, coming all the way in to the finishing bubblegum. So it lends its hand to good attacking racing, hard racing. And it is going to be like this for a long time. Positional into climbs is not going to be as vital as it was with a smaller group coming in. So if you're in this front group and you're feeling good, it's definitely a lot more relaxed than what it would be if there was a larger group and there was that little bit of wind that wasn't quite enough to break it. But 2:22 now, back to that chasing peloton with these riders riding through and off just to stay in the front. It's going to be a fast day, it's going to be a hard day, and this is one of those days where if you're on good form you wish you were there.
This race, Adam, as you'll know, always used to be held on a Wednesday, and it's now a Sunday race. It's now a critical part of the Flanders fortnight as well, and the build up to the Ronde van Vlaanderen. I'm going to stick my neck out right at the beginning, and I'm going to suggest from my own very humble position that maybe, looking back at previous winners of this race and the distance of it and where it is in the calendar, where it is geographically, I'm going to stick my neck out and say this race has an even better shout to be considered a monument than Strade Bianche. I'll be upsetting some people by saying that, but I think that is an undeniable fact, not least now that it's on a Sunday as well. I don't know whether you want to add your bit to that, Adam, but I'm going to say it now, just before we watch the 86th edition.
Each to their own. Each to their own, Jed. Each to their own.
Unbelievable. I'm going to tease something out of you today if I can. Look at the back end here. Oh my gosh, with 117k to go, you know the race is on, don't you? Deary me. Yeah. That looked hard rise.
So this is a peloton,
well. Yeah, go on, Adam. Sorry.
This is a peloton behind. That's why we've got the cars moving up there. A minute back now from what we understand. So that chasing group, well, the leading group with Van der Poel in. You see the riders at the front there. You've got the rider who was second in Milan San Remo, Michael Matthews, right up at the front there. So he's just missed that split. But yeah, this is the damage that's done when you've got riders going full gas to the front like that. That little bit of crosswind, it strings out like this, and it just takes one rider or another rider in front of you to lose that wheel. And yeah, that's it. It's pretty much game over until the ease off, where you find yourself in a small group. It is just hardcore racing, and positioning absolutely key.
Oh, we're watching Pierre Gautrat, who's had a really good spring, the decathlon Agi Desert man, 21-year-old Frenchman, really promising spring as well. He is surfing the back end. He nearly got taken out there. Petr Kellerman, who's now off the back as well, the Czech rider for Tudor Pro Cycling. Painful shots to watch the back end of a strung out peloton like that, but they have at this stage, Adam, got a little bit of a cross tail, so they'll still be being pushed at this point, won't they, as they make their way back towards Ypres for the second time.
Yeah, they will definitely, but you can see the splits in the back already. So this is the peloton once again. There are splits just happening behind. The gap is slowly coming down, and all the riders that are in this group, you can see the teams that are riding. Bahrain riding, a lot of Destiny riding, EF riding. There's the split just behind, and as I said, it just takes one rider to lose that wheel. Then it becomes the longest and hardest, however long it takes to get back, in your life.
Well, we are nearly sewing up those two groups. Interesting, the work's being done by Antamache Wanti. I know some of you who are watching this now will have just finished watching Catalunya. Obviously, Adam and I will not give you any spoilers, but they'll be joining us in a minute, so you'll forgive me doing a little bit of a refresh. Well, I'm just wondering if...
Niels Pollitt there.
Yeah, it is Niels Pollitt, you're right. Now, is he working his way across, do you think, Adam? It looks like it, doesn't it?
Well, he's trying to get back across. Yeah, he's just on the wrong side of that split, so he's definitely trying to get back across to that main peloton. But as I said, those gaps are the longest gaps in the world, they're the hardest gaps in the world to close as well. Luckily, he's got a bit of shelter from the buildings on the left-hand side, not too much. You just see right in the distance all the team cars just stacked up in front from that peloton. 55 seconds, it's come down slightly. I wonder if they'll bring those cars out soon. You'd think they'd have to. Anything under a minute generally is when they start to bring it down.
There is a lot of vehicles there, isn't there? Niels Pollitt, of course, in very good form after his 6th place on Friday at E3. And he comes here in a team which I suspect, Adam, I don't know what you think. I mean, it looks like Niels Pollitt is up for his own fight today, but they have Juan Sebastian Molano, who is in good form. He was 7th on Wednesday at Brugge de Panne, sprinting well, but also holding wheels well in the blustery, tough conditions as well. Remarkably, it's the 29-year-old's debut today at Wevelgem, Juan Sebastian Molano. Let's see how he fares.
Yeah, I think he'll be quite... Sorry, I think he'll be quite a good shout today. I think if it comes back together, but with this tailwind coming into the finish over the climbs, it makes things extra difficult for the sprinters, and especially with the race being open as it is, you know, with the crosswinds, everything. If they're very good at positioning, they can save a lot of energy, then they'll be in with a better chance. But the way this race has been for the last couple of years, it's anything but that. And you can just see the speed, look at the leg speed of the riders on the left-hand side. They are motoring.
Stefan Kung doing his roll through on the front, the Swiss rider for Groupama FDG. Well, there's at least a couple of Groupama riders there as well. And I think that looks like Lawrence Pithy rolling through as well. One of the revelations of the spring. The young Kiwi, he looks good. John Degenkolb's there, as we can see as we look down the group, and remnants of the original 8 are still there as well. Cyrus Monk there for Q36.5, he's also there.
Yeah, Matteo Trentin from Tudor Pro Cycling on the left-hand side, he's there. Stefan Kung, around 4 riders back from FDJ, he's there as well. Olaf Koit, that's not him rolling through now, but one of the fastest sprinters we've seen so far this year. He's in this group as well. He's got a few teammates absent, as you said at the start of the show, Jez. Christopher Holt, last year's winner, and the big leader, Wout van Aert, he's not here. A little bit more freedom maybe for Koit today.
Yeah, Adam mentions Wout van Aert. If you haven't seen yet either full coverage or our highlights of E3 on Friday, the E3 Prix, I should call it, the E3 Saxo Classic on Friday that Rob Hatch and Adam brought you, go back and watch them, because the last sort of 30-40k of that were epic. It all seemed to kick off, didn't it, Adam? And I'm not really giving away too many spoilers here because we can talk about it. It all seemed to kick off when Wout van Aert crashed, and it was kind of an innocuous crash on the cobbles, wouldn't it? Just slipping into the edge of the road.
Yeah, just trying to get round. I think it was Stefan Kung at the time trying to jump off the Van der Poel's wheel, wet cobbles, a little bit of the gutter, and yeah, just unfortunate crash, but at the worst possible time when Van der Poel launched his winning move.
Well, we mentioned Stefan Kung, perfect timing in a way, because we caught up with him just before the start, speaking to us in French, which is appropriate for the French team rider. Stefan Kung, tell us which Gent-Wevelgem we'll have with some difficult conditions like this wind. And Kung said, well, we have a lot of wind. We'll be at the top of the climb, I suspect. After the turn, the wind will be 3/4 on our back. May cause a few splits in the selection already for the win. It's going to be a fast and hard race for sure. And how are you after the E3? Did you recover well? I think so, yeah. Today's a different race to E3, especially with the wind. I think I'm ready, though. It's a fascinating sort of look. I found watching E3, Adam, on Friday, as you did, you were commentating on it, of course. It struck me that between the Tour of Flanders, E3 and this race, you have 3 races which finish in a very similar way, in that they all have the hardest climbs with somewhere between 15 and 30k to go, and you're left with this long, fast chase back into the finish afterwards. Something about that formula just seems to work so well, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I think this is by far out of those finishes the best ones for that. I think the run into the finish is very flat, it's fast, the wind's in the right place, you can get splits still even coming into the finish, even out of very small groups. I think the other two, the climbing, it really gets into people's legs, so there's not that sort of aggression in the final. The sort of selections been made almost, and when they get into the final, it's about holding that wheel and not losing anything, whereas E3 is hanging on, and Tour of Flanders, it's just getting to the finish. We rarely see attacks in that last however many Ks it is, 12 Ks from the top of the Paterberg to the finish, 8 Ks. We rarely see it. We just see 1s and 2s, and they're all just full gas to the finish line trying to get there.
Well, this is our leading group at the moment that have a slight cross tailwind. We're just about to be joined by viewers on Eurosport, so you'll forgive me, digital folks, while I introduce the whole thing to them one more time. So welcome to our live coverage. Those of you watching on our Eurosport coverage, you're looking at a freshly formed leading group of around about 35, 36 riders, something like that, which has hoovered up the original 8 who were out there for a good 120 kilometres, something like that. We are just exiting the most wind troublesome part of this, the 86th edition of Gent-Wevelgem in Flanders Fields. And the wind has done its job already. 36, 37 kilometres per hour, blowing in off the sea, blowing right across West Flanders, and splitting this peloton into what we think at the moment is around about 3 groups. This is the big leading group. Not everyone has made it. We've already seen pictures of Michael Matthews, second, of course, at Milan-San Remo, stuck and already doing chasing himself at the front of the second group. We will keep an eye on the gap. The gap, we're being told at the moment, as you can see, between this group and that Michael Matthews main group, 54 seconds, and starting to go out as well. This is the Irishman Ryan Mullen on the front for Bora Hansgrohe. My name's Jez Cox, by the way, and I have Adam Blythe with me here. Adam, we were just saying, weren't we, how in a way this is kind of the ideal, predictable opening to Gent-Wevelgem before we've even got to the Hellingen, before we've got to the 3 ascents of the Kemmelberg and the Plugstreets in between. Already the wind has done its job.
Yeah, the wind has done its job, and this can be one of the hardest parts of Wevelgem. You know, you have to go full gas if it's like this for such a long way out before you even get to the hard part. So even these riders, you know, it's like you have to invest to try and save energy before you get to the harder part of the race. But this can equally be one of the hardest parts of the race, where you're just full gas fighting it all day long. It's brutal.
Yeah,
but good for us.
Sorry.
It's
very good for us, absolutely, yeah. Wherever you're watching around the world, and we know that Gent-Wevelgem is one of the biggies that everyone loves to tune in for and catch up with. Don't go anywhere now, though, because we are getting ever closer to those critical 65 kilometres, which include 3 ascents of the Kemmelberg, the Monterberg, the Bannerberg, the Schelpenberg, and then, of course, that wonderful midsection of the Plugstreets, which have such important historical relevance within the First World War specifically. More to come on that. Before that, though, I'm pleased to say I caught up this week with a British racing legend, in fact a cycling legend, Barry Hoban. I had a long chat with your fellow Yorkshireman, Adam, and I know he's watching right now, so hey Barry, thank you for that. It was a real pleasure to catch up with Barry Hoban this week, because it is 50 years since he won Gent-Wevelgem in an incredible podium. He bettered Eddie Merckx and Roger de Vlaming to take his win in 1974. And in just a moment, we will catch up with what Barry Hoban said. I put a few questions to him. We had a lovely chat from his home in the mountains in Wales. And here in just a moment is what Barry Hoban told me about that year.
The route is basically the same, with the strategic point being the Kemmelberg and the other little hills around it. We were 17 riders, got clear, and the finish, there's no real difficulty on the finish. You've got the last 5Ks quite flat, and all you have are the guys who jump clear. So the specialities is what they do. The Donguillons and the Tino Tabaks. And the last one to go was Herman van Springel, a great rider also. He took a flyer and he was brought back. And we were suddenly in the last kilometre. Then 500 metres. I was beautifully placed. Unfortunately, I was behind Merckx and Eric Le Mans and Roger de Vlaming, and I couldn't get through. And I'm just praying that they're going to fan out and open and give me a gap with 200 metres to go. Well, we went past the 200 metres and they were still together, and suddenly they opened up. Well, the gap was there. I didn't need two chances. I went through like grease lightning. Merckx was looking across. He looked into my eyes. I don't know what he thought, but I thought, I've got you today, Eddie. Oh, and I gave it full whack. And I finished with a good length clear. And as I say, it's great winning a race like Wimbledon, but it's also who you beat. And I beat some of the greatest names of the 60s and 70s in Belgian cycling.
Oh, Barry, thank you so much for that. It was really a great pleasure for me to catch up with the great man himself. It's, of course, not just his Gent-Wevelgem win that he's remembered for, but 8 Tour de France stages and the winner of the 1974 Gent-Wevelgem as well. What fantastic memories, and so well retold by Barry, 84 years of age now as well. Originally from Wakefield, as you'll know, Adam, of course, but now living in the mountains in Wales. Thank you so much, Barry, for that, and I do hope you enjoy the race. I did ask him, by the way, Adam, who he thought would win, and he said Jasper Philipsen.
Interesting.
Yep.
I mean, it's quite a safe bet, really, isn't it? Winner of Milan-San Remo, going well. Second in Roubaix last year as well. It's a safe bet, but an interesting one with Van der Poel being in the team as well. Again, like we heard with the interview from Van der Poel, who said, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens if Jasper can get over the Kemmel for the last time. He's got more of he's got a very good chance that Van der Poel will try and keep things together for him, but there's a lot of road to cover between now and then, and there's a lot of climbs to cover, and there is also a lot of wind.
Absolutely.
That can make a big difference.
This is fascinating what's happening at the front though, Adam, because they've now got a little bit more of a block tailwind, and they're getting closer and closer to the first ascent of the Scherpenberg, and this is where it all starts to kick off as well. Mads Pedersen there, just drifting off the front, having a look back at others as well. It seems like, although they are going hard, like there's a little bit of looking around going on and just regrouping, assessing who's there. And the gap has come down, hasn't it? 33 seconds now to that group behind. I wonder if there is a chance of them coming back.
I mean, there is a huge chance that this group will all come back together. I think, you know, the breakaway, they've still got the hard climbs in front of them. They don't want to go too hard. There's all the big names that we're expecting to be there in the front. There's a couple missing, but not too many. But the main ones, Van der Poel, these guys. So a lot of them will be thinking not only, I'll save myself coming into this climb a little bit, try and, you know, recover ever so slightly. But they don't want to go too hard too soon. Even if we've got teammates in the front, they're in a great position, and the riders behind, even if they're sat on the wheels, they have to ride faster, they have to ride harder to get back from them. So the stress levels from them are probably quite calm at the minute. Let's get to the climbs, let's assess after the climbs, but ultimately, whoever you are in that group, you'll be thinking Still got 100k to go. I mean, a very good group here. Don't do too much. There's enough riders that can do the work. And when you look at the riders doing the work, you look towards the back, Van der Poel towards the back, Philipsen's towards the back. We've seen Pedersen there at the front there, but there's so many riders that are just sitting back, not doing too much work. Danny Van Poppel as well, third in Burgerdapana last week, the lead-out man, but flying as well. Olaf Koy going very, very well, as we've seen this year. Tim Wellens, sorry. Tim Malia.
Yes, interesting mix of riders there. And you're right, Adam, to say Danny Van Poppel, and the next thing that trips off your tongue is, you know, sort of one of the world's greatest lead-out men. But he's constantly proving, isn't he, that when given a chance to ride for himself, as we know, he's a threat, and he's in form as well. As you say, he was third at Brugge de Panne on Wednesday. He was ninth in this race last year. It wouldn't be a massive surprise if he were to win.
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, if he was to win, it wouldn't be a surprise at all. He's a motor on a bike. He's a very strong rider, and he's gone well in this race in the past. He's a rider that likes the classics, and especially this one that's just that little bit harder. And you can just see what's happening there. A little bit of anticipation.
Yep.
One of the Gianni Vermeersch from Alpecin just jumping across, keeping things covered, and that's the game that these guys have got to play now. You know, even with Wiesma bike without the two big leads of Laporte and Wout van Aert there, they need to make sure they've got riders in the front group. You could just see already just a few little groups going away. The tactics are already starting to be played. The pressure's being put on by other teams, rather than just all rolling through together. Everyone wants to try and stay fresh. Everyone wants to try and anticipate the big riders later on still. But if it goes on like this, God, you're going to have to be selective and very picky in terms of when you go, how you go, who you go with.
Not least because they've still got some riders in there who are in that original group of 8, Adam. They've got nothing to lose. We've seen Cyrus Monk going in that move, as has Dries de Bont also going in that move, and why not? They've already been out there all day, they've been caught, and so they'll roll the dice again, of course, before they even get to the main climbs. They might as well. Yeah,
100%. That was just then as well. I think it was Matteo Trentin that jumped across there. Tim Malia, another fast man, he's in there as well. So these guys have got a fantastic opportunity, being in the front group already, not having the team having to do any work from behind, chase them down. So riders that are in this front group are they're already benefiting from the position that they're in. And I think, you know, the longer this race goes on, they're going to benefit more and more, the less work they have to do if they can put themselves in those right moves as well.
It's interesting seeing Mads Pedersen again doing what I would call a turn at the front, not just rolling through, but actually pressing in a little bit into that wind. And it's just getting me thinking, Adam, whether he's all in for Jasper Stuyven today. I don't know if I'm presuming Stuyven has made that for. Yes, he has. The 3 little Trek riders that made that front group: Mads Pedersen, Jonathan Milan, interestingly enough, the Italian, and Jasper Stuyven. So I just wonder whether maybe we mark our Jasper Stuyven protected rider card today, because Pedersen seems to be doing a fair bit, but he doesn't hold back that much anyway, does he?
No, I don't think he'll be protecting him at all. I think he'll just want to keep things moving. I mean, a big group like this, if you can slip away, get away from, you know, the likes of Philipsen, even the likes of Van der Poel, if you can just get away with another small group, it's going to benefit him ever so slightly, put the pressure on the other riders behind. So yeah, I don't think they're going to play Pedersen outright leader. I think they'll do as they did in E3 last week, so they've got a couple of leaders will work together and will communicate between each other.
Just watching Johan Jacobs, or Jacobs I should say, rolling off the front there, the Swiss rider from Movistar, as we pick up the man himself, Mathieu van der Poel, who will be in our shots every time he so much as twitches in this race, up alongside Ben Turner, the British rider. Van der Poel just working his way back in. I think he may have just dropped back to the car, possibly by the looks of things, the way he's riding his way back in. Welcome back, those of you who've just been away on a short break. We are headed towards the first of our climbs proper. It's been pretty much pan flat so far, save a couple of rises over the towards the coast, over the West Flemish polders. But now we come into the Heuvelland, this focal point of Gent-Wevelgem, as it is every year, and the start of the Scherpenberg. They start to climb gradually into it anyway. This is Matteo Trentin in those colours of Tudor Pro Cycling. They've had a great start to the year, the Swiss team in black and red. Noticing Lewis Askey here, coming through again, Adam. He was in that leading group in E3, wasn't he? I think he punctured out of it, didn't he? I saw a post from him afterwards. He was pretty dischuffed at his luck on Friday.
Yeah, he's got himself in a good position at the minute, though. There's Mads Pedersen at the front. There's Jonathan Milan, the Italian sprinter who's had fantastic form. Mads Pedersen now just going half road, so there is a crosswind still here, but he's making it hard for everyone behind. No one that wants to pull any turns on the front. Pedersen just keeping the pressure on, coming halfway across the road, so that leaves less room for the riders in front, which makes it harder for them in the back. So just doing that just makes it difficult for those riders that are trying to get a little bit of shelter, trying to save some energy. Pedersen saying, no, not on my watch, you're not, lads. You need to put in your work, try and do some turns. If you want to sit on, I'll make it as hard as I can for you to sit on.
Gosh, I hate to point it out, Adam, by the way. I'm just rolling through the 35 or so riders in this group. We're in crosswind territory. We're in West Flanders. It's Gent-Wevelgem. One team has only one rider in here, and that is Soudal Quickstep. The team who, you know, in previous editions, we'd have expected nearly all of them to be in this leading group, wouldn't we? Tim Merlier, as far as I can see, is the only Soudal Quickstep rider to have made this leading group. No Yves Lampert, no Casper Asgreen, as far as I can see. I may be wrong, but from what I'm looking at, I think Tim Merlier is the only one. Having said that, Tim Merlier is probably the most in form and likely to win of those guys. Second at Brugge de Panne on Wednesday, having had a little bit of, what should we say, skin contact with Jasper Philipsen coming into the finish. So I think there was a little bit more made of that after the finish than there was maybe at the time. But that is notable, Adam. I hate to be I mean, I know we always point it out. Maybe I need to move on from this concept of Soudal Quickstep being the all-dominant classics team, particularly when the wind is blowing. But that's what they were for so long, weren't they?
Oh, God, yeah. They were the team to beat. They were the team that dominated the classics with the likes of Tom Bonen. And then going on year after year after year, they were just incredible strength in numbers. They had that in abundance. So, yeah, it is odd, especially in this size of group, that they do only have Tim Merlier in there. But as you said, if you wanted a man in there from the team, it would probably be him, because he's got the fast finish. He's been at this race before. He's got over the Kemmel for the last time, albeit a little bit further back. But he's performed in this race before, and he's put himself in a good position to try and perform again.
Looking here at former Belgian national road race champion Dries de Bont, one of the original 8 riders who was clear, racing, I have to get used to this, Adam, in those new Decathlon AG Desert La Mondiale team kit. But it's an unmistakable style of Dries de Bont, that rolling, stocky, powerfully built style. This looks like Niels Eekhoff rolling through on the front with Gianni Vermeersch as well. Stefan Kuhn comes back to the front again. Boy, have we got some big engine in this group to keep pressing things on. Having said that, the gap is stabilised at the moment. 31, let's call it 30 seconds to the group behind. Wouldn't mind seeing a shot of the front of the group behind, because the gap is so small, Adam. I'm guessing we probably won't get many cameras in there. That looks like Georg Zimmermann, who's just gone out and picked up a bottle. Having said that, it might not be Zimmermann, because I don't have him down on my little list of who's in here. I think it was Zimmermann, though. There's definitely Madish Mikkels in here, and Mike Turnesen as well.
Turnesen's definitely in there.
Yeah. Big old group. You'll forgive us, folks, at home, if we get 1 or 2 wrong as we look at them, trying to figure out who is there. Oh, well, that's interesting, because that's definitely not... I'm looking at a Soudal Quickstep rider. This is the back of... That was Group 1, at the back of Group 1, I think we were looking at. Right, here comes the first climb with 97k to go, the first climb proper. Anyway, this is the Scherpenberg. It's a long one, too. It's actually about 1,600 metres in full length. The classified part of it is a K. Very, very gradual, though. Not an absolute killer. And still riding with a little bit of a cross tailwind, pressing them. Look at the damage it's doing, though.
Yeah, it's a hard one, this. It's not the easiest climb in the world, but with the wind the way it is, it definitely makes it harder. But I don't think there's anything really for the riders to worry about with this. They'll all generally get over it quite well. There is still the wind. You can see it blow from the left to the right-hand side of the road, but yeah, it's not the hardest climb in the world. All riders should be able to get over this without any problems as such. But yeah, you can just see the pace is on in this front group as well. You see riders just trying to push on, always trying to just get that little gap, trying to go clear a little bit. You got Milan on the front now, just driving that pace. Look at it behind, everyone's just fighting, trying to get on that right-hand side of the wheel. Well, they're our right-hand side before we see it. Their left-hand side of the wheel, just trying to get that little bit of shelter, trying to get that recovery.
Yeah, Ben Turner there, the Ineos rider, rolling through. How many Ineos riders have we got here? I think Ben Turner might be the only one, actually. which would be a bit of a shame for Jonathan Narvaez, the Ecuadorian national champion. I thought he was in there, but I'm not sure. We'll keep an eye on that. That would be another miss, wouldn't it? The question is, do they bother chasing behind? They're all in for Michael Matthews here, Jaco Alula.
Yeah, I don't think they really need to chase just for Narvaez. I think, you know, with it at 30 seconds, the closer they get into the climbs, etc., the more chance that Narvaez is going to get to jump across, to follow attacks maybe coming from this group, to jump across Michael Matthews. He's got his team on the front trying to bring it as close back as they can. It wouldn't surprise me if he tried to jump across on a climb, make contact with that front group, but I'm sure a lot of riders within this peloton that we've just seen, there'll be a few of the others trying to think that as well.
Yeah, here goes the front of the race now going clear for Jaco Alula.
Kel O'Brien, I think it is, one of the original riders from the original breakaway.
Yeah, they are the guys, aren't they, Adam, I guess, as I said, who are even more likely to try their hand because they've already been out there all that time. They may as well give it a go. Oh, we're being told Max Welshide here. I don't know about that.
It is, yeah. Sorry, apologies.
It is.
My bad.
Oops. Still getting used to seeing him in that kit too as well, the powerful German. So Max Welshide going clear, and a leading group who, if they carry on looking around like this, it's going to be the perfect scenario for those behind, Adam, in a way. Welshide going clear here, making them all sit and look at each other a little bit. It might be just what's needed. In fact, we can see Group 2 just round the corner, bubbling up over that little rise as well. They're on the slight descent down to Schomminkel in Westalter, just before they start the Bannerberg, which is the second of our classified climbs. A little bit longer than the last one too. It goes Scherpenberg, Bannerberg, Monterberg, all in pretty quick succession because they're turning back on themselves, going up and down them. Then they start the Kemmel for the first time, the Kemmelberg Belvedere, from the slightly easier side as well. As they go, as you can see, under the wheels of our leader here, picking up little strips of unclassified cobbles along the way as well. These are nice, smooth ones, though, just trundling away underneath the wheels of Max Welshide. He's on the lower slopes now of the Bannerberg, 1,300 metres in length. 6% average gradient, so a little bit harder than the Scherpenberg.
It's in a tough place here, Welshire. I mean, when you're on your own like this, still with 94 k's to go, still with all the leaders behind that are wanting to get clear. It's not the worst thing in the world that he's gone clear right now, but it's a lot of energy that he's got to use to hold this gap to try and stay away and hope that other riders bridge across to him, because there's no way he's going to stay away on his own for too long. He might be able to get over this climb, but if I was him, I'd go up this climb at an easier pace so this group would maybe come back to me, because I can't imagine these are going to go easy up here the way they've been riding already, but they might do. Just watch each other, make sure they don't miss any big moves, make sure the big riders don't go up the road, which if they do, if Welshide can get over it, he'll benefit from massively. Luke Durbridge, I think... No, it's not Durbridge. God, my eyesight's going. Apologies.
Elmar Reinders, the Dutchman, going off the back by the looks of it. Gosh, this is where it narrows down as well, and if you are dripping off, it's so hard to get around riders and get back on, Adam, as well. The dome shape in the middle of the road. Johan Jacobs, I should say, the Swiss rider from Movistar, still clear. We hadn't been picking him up, actually, understandably. Oh, he's been overlapped, I should say, by Max Welshide.
He's just trying to come across to him. So he's come across from that group at the front. The leading group was Mads Pedersen, Mathieu van der Poel in there. He's jumped away from that, trying to get across and up to Welshide. And if he does, it's better for both of them. Strength in numbers, a little bit of recovery on the wheel. And as we said before, it's just about anticipating constantly when you've got Van der Poel in the race, you've got to get ahead of him. You can't just wait for him. You can't just expect to keep up with him. And you don't know what he's going to do. You don't know where he's going to go. So for these riders in the last 90k, it's not going to hurt going up the road. It's not going to hurt getting away from them. But it is a long, long way to go still, with all the hard roads in front of them.
Little shout out to two friends of mine from cycling Twitter who are staying in a little cottage. They've just gone past, actually, on this climb. They've been sending me pictures, Adam, for the last couple of weeks, or the last few days, I should say, this week, of the repairs being done to the Plugstreets as well that we're coming to. where just a week or so ago they were absolutely awful, completely covered in mud and looking like unrideable, and they've been being rollered and touched up as well. Hopefully not touched up too much, because they're a crucial part of this race, but a little shout out to Beer Biker and Mrs. Beer Babe, as they're known on Twitter. Look them up if you don't know them. They go to all the big races. They're real unpaved specialists as well. Love a bit of Trobro and all the races like that as well. So thank you for you two that sending me those pictures. It'd be nice to see the roads being patched up as we go. The Plugstreets are going to be crucial again in this race, but thankfully rideable, just about. What a fantastic shot looking down the riders on the Monteberg as they are here. Sorry, the Bannerberg. I'm getting ahead of myself, Adam. I'm getting my bergs muddled up here. We're into the second of our classified times now. Problem for one of the Cofidis riders there too. Oh, that's Axel Zingle. Sorry, Adam. That's probably one of their best bets today, Axel Zingle. It'd be a big step up in his career were he to get a top 10 here or something like that. But a problem for him on the left. Did you see what it was?
I didn't. Look like a problem with his bike, puncture maybe, flat tyre. Nothing. Well, I think with the roads narrow as it is, he's going to have more problems getting back on just because of the cars being so far behind, not being able to overtake as well. So it's not the ideal situation or place to puncture. But they've still got a long, long way to go. They've still got 90-odd Ks to go. I'd be interested to see if this peloton and front group would come back together, and that would be a no by the looks of this. No. And there's someone going very, very hard at the front as well by the looks of things, stringing this front group right out.
Yeah, there's gaps opening up as well.
Not Vermeersch, sorry. Yeah, Gianni Vermeersch. Apologies.
Over the top of Bannerberg, that very recognisable windmill over the top. We've seen that turn in some atrocious conditions over the last few years in hammering rain. This is rather nice for those at the roadside. We'll see even bigger crowds today. They're always big anyway in Flanders. They come out to watch everything, but today it'll be even nicer. A little bit of early season sunshine. And again, Mads Pedersen just presses on for Lidl Trek, sensing the gaps opening up behind. Put the pressure on others as well. You can see Jasper Stuyven, Jonathan Milan also right there. I wonder, Adam, when we look at the dominance of Visma Lease bike last year, the fact that they had Wout van Aert and Christophe Laporte clear by themselves, when they rode clear, that was the end of the race. A few chased, but they couldn't get anywhere near the two of them. They're the defending team, but they have no Christophe Laporte, who's been a bit sickly since Milan-San Remo. I just wonder whether this is the chance for a massive step up for Olav Koy. We know how quick he is come the finish. He looks good riding in that leading group at the moment. He is still only 22 years of age, though, and he would be one of the youngest winners of this race. Were he to win, I think he'd be the youngest, one of the youngest winners we've had for an awfully long time. I know Eddie Merckx won at age 21 back in 1967, but this is Eddie Merckx we're talking about here. We know he's a man down in that team already as well, with no Jan Tratnik there to support him. At least one of the Van Dijken brothers has made this leading group. He's got Mick Van Dijken and Tosh van der Sande, it was, we saw rolling through. Tosh van der Sande in sleeveless short sleeve jersey.
You are?
I think he's
sleeveless.
Sleeveless, no, sorry, let me say that again. Not like a triathlon suit. Not like a triathlon suit. No, sorry. I mean, sleeveless. Riding sleeveless. Now look at pictures, of course, and half of them have got rid of their arm warmers, but you know what I mean.
Oh, so just
no arm warmers. No, you're right, he'd be DQ'd.
Yeah.
I think he could win and he'd get his arms in the air, and he'd still be DQ'd for being sleeveless.
I was going to say, crikey.
No, not quite. Not what they get. Mario Cipollini. Mario Cipollini got away with it.
Yeah, he did, yeah. Big fines. It's Mike Turnison on the front, but this group, as we saw from that big aerial shot there, the helicopter shot of them coming over the top of the Bannerberg, the corner highlighted how long that line was, how close the groups are all coming back together. And if these groups come back together, it's not back to square one, but there'll be a lot more riders contend with a lot more of attacking. So hence why we're seeing this attacking riders still at the front. This group, that's half the peloton, the other half just behind them there. But they'll want to stay ahead of them for as long as they can. But a lot of riders with the likes of Malaya, the likes of Koy. And I think with that, it's it makes it difficult at the front, and I've seen Pedersen doing quite a lot of work, as we all have already. He wants to keep this moving, want to keep the pace on, but you can waste so much by doing so. You always have to look in the group at who's doing the least, who's being the most efficient, who's almost being forgotten about. And then you look at Philipsen, he's never been to the front really. Van der Poel, he's never been to the front really. You think, you know, those two are the big favourites, and they're not touching the front. They're just sitting back, they're just relaxing, they're not following moves, they're letting the other riders do it. There must be a point where Pedersen says, OK, I want to get this moving, but instead of just trying to roll things forward a little bit faster than I want it to be going, why don't I just attack, really go for it, put the pressure on immediately, rather than just trying to keep things rolling.
We're watching the cloud following the chase group here, trying to sew themselves back up to Group 1, and they're not far off doing that either. This is the 86th edition of Gent-Wevelgem with Jez Cox and Adam Blythe once again, and we were actually looking at the leading group. They're going through Dranota, which is the lower dip. It's the dip in between the Bannerberg and the Monteberg. They turn left, as you see there, and start gradually to wind their way into the Monteberg from the Lettingstraat side, which is the side they're coming at it from. They pick up a little bit more of a tailwind here again. You can see the hills in front of them of the Heuvelland. These hills, of course, were such critical places in the battles that took place, particularly in World War I. In Flanders fields, the high points, and of course the highest point in the Heuvelland in these hills here is the Kemmelberg, 138 metres above sea level. And that will be our next climb after the Monteberg, the first ascent of it. And the first section of uphill cobbles that's really going to test the riders as well. Here's the stats for the Monteberg as our leading group roll into it. Let's look visually at that gap. It's one S-bend between them, the 35 or so riders in the leading group, and what remains of our peloton chasing behind. Look at those lush open green fields. Uno X have I think 3 riders. No, I may be wrong, sorry, I'm confusing my reds here. They've definitely got William Bloom-Levy, because he was in that leading group. That's him off to the right-hand side. He was in that leading group of 8 that were clear for the first 100 or so kilometres. There is Mads Pedersen off to the left. It's almost like a who's who of who's going to win this race. Mathieu van der Poel to his right as well. Jonathan Milan in the centre. Lidl Trek happy to just slow this down, in fact, Adam. We get almost the closest we'll come to a roadblock here today with Lidl Trek at the front. Just slowing things down.
Yeah, they've got the Kemmel coming after this, so they want to hold position, and if they try to just accelerate, by the time they get to the Kemmel, they're not going to have any legs to get over the Kemmel. So just holding it at the front, making sure the ride's there, slowing things down a little bit. It's a perfect situation. They're near the front, they're having a little bit of an ease before they get onto the Kemmel so they can attack it hard, and they're in the right position to do so. It generally happens on most climbs in the Flanders races this early on, where you got your position, you back off a little bit, but as we can see, it allows groups from behind to get back on, but they're fighting to get back on still. They've been trying for long while the guys at the front are recovering.
Yeah, this is well, this is the start of the lower slope of the Kemmelberg. See the damage being done at the back as well. This is the back of the chasing group, the back of the peloton. Matthias Norsgaard just dropping off the back as well. Looking forward to seeing how his sister Emma goes in the women's edition of Gent-Wevelgem after this. It comes straight afterwards. In fact, our 2 broadcasts overlap. So when you finish watching this race here today, do switch over if you're watching on Discovery Plus and watch the women's race as well, won't you? Marty McDonald and Joe Rousel bringing you that this afternoon as we look down on the Heuvelland, the hills of the Heuvelland, which characterise this middle 65 kilometres of Gent-Wevelgem in Flanders fields. Alex Kirch, the Luxembourg national champion, off to the right-hand side. Stefan Kung, we've already seen him doing some long turns to drive forward this race too. It also looks like another Uno X mobility rider. Rasmus Tiller is there, second row too. Looks like he's chewing some gum. Then again, he's got a big old jaw. I could be mistaken there. 1 or 2 riders just pushing their way through Levy of Uno X trying to hold position at the front, but it looks to me like the signal's now gone out for Lidl-Trek to up things into the base of the Kemmelberg, the Belvedere side for the first time, and we are approaching it now, Adam. Mathieu van der Poel moving up too. Are we about to see liftoff? It's only the first time. Last year it was the second time up the Kemmelberg, the same side as this, where we saw our two leaders, Christophe Laporte and Wout van Aert, go clear. It's going to be a hard run into it.
It's a hard run, it's a fast run into it as well. The left-hand turn, it really just bang, goes straight up into it. But yeah, Lidl-Trek are definitely taking it up. They want to be in good position. Van der Poel towards the front. I think there'll be pressure applied, obviously, the way that Trek's gone into this, but no big attacks just yet with the wind the way it is, the group as large as it is. Riders within that group that have been able to stay fresh. I don't think there'll be fireworks just yet, but as I say, that Van der Poel comes to the front and starts to accelerate ever so slightly.
Oh, it's only his third race of the year, Adam. He's got to do it, get his training in, hasn't he? He's just building up again now, just gradually. Mathieu van der Poel, I mean, he needed a little rest after winning the World Cyclocross Champs for, what, the 5th or 6th time. He's a double world champion, let's not forget, at the moment. And this is his third race of the year. It's not like those Tour Down Under riders who've got good racing in their legs. No, he's got to ease his way in. As you can see, he's taking it very steady. Oh, I love it. Look at the pain on.
I mean, the way that he's going there is unbelievable. You just wonder, he's got two Trek riders, Jonathan Milan and Mads Pedersen with him. I think that's Olaf Koy behind. Then you've got Jasper Stuyven just behind him a little bit. Lawrence Pithy as well, just at the back there from Francis de Jour. Then you've got riders in dribs and drabs, and it's what they can do after this. Not these riders, it's what Van der Poel decided to do. It's what Lidl-Trek decided to do. Because I'm sure if they're with Pedersen in this situation, Van der Poel's road, they're not going to look around and think, oh, we'll keep going with this. This is good for us, dragging the world champion away from him. I think they want to put him under pressure, use that strength in numbers a little bit more later on, because this is just bread and butter for Van der Poel at the minute. The harder the race, the better.
Interesting, though, because Mads Pedersen is so active today, the former world champion, the Dane just stretching his legs a little bit. So two Lidl-Trek riders, Pedersen, as you say, Jonathan Milan as well. This is the Little Chase group as well. And once again, the Kemmelberg, in its first of 3 ascents today, is doing its job, smashing things up a little bit. Of course, they've got a long descent off it. The first bit quite technical through the woods here and out, but they continue to descend out of the woods too. That's that iconic descent shot from the Kemmelberg. Thankfully dry today because it's off camber there, sloping back towards us as well. You can see who the Intermarché rider was there, stuck in between these groups.
Trying to work out who that Intermarché rider is. But yeah, over the top of the camel here, there's so many riders. There's Biniam Gamay just behind there as well. So there's a large group. You've got Philipsen in there as well. Ben Turner's just nipped past Trentin in there. Mahoric has gone across. Michael Matthews has found his way towards the front. So there's plenty of riders in there and a big enough group to be able to come back to those guys if they all work together. There's only a few teams represented at the front, so there is enough riders behind to be able to help their team leader if they're not quite in that front group. But the size of this, it's almost the perfect size. I mean, it's 7 riders, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 riders at the front.
Oof, dearie me, that was a tight turn. He's riding across. Stefan Kung was at the front of this group, Adam. When he went past us, coming down that descent off the Kemmelberg, he was banging his bars. I don't know whether that was in deliberate, frustration for the camera to see, or whether he was actually knocking something straight again. But it was a very odd moment as the chasing group, it's detached in 2 halves as well, down to 1 line through that tight right-hander. They climb away from here now, just very, very gradually, and they're headed towards the Plugstraats, I should say, the ploughed streets, the off-road sectors. 3 main sectors: Hill 63, then the Christmas Truce, and then the Catacombs. 3 climbs, 3 hills, which are absolutely littered with the history of Europe, in fact, the history of the world, having been the scene of such crucial and bloody battles in World War I.
This is one of the, not the hardest points, but one of the trickiest points here, where you assess the situation. You've got over the Kemmel, you look around, see who's with you, see who's not with you. and applying the pressure at the right time or not, depending on how far that group is off the back. They've got a little while now until they get onto the next line, which is the Camel again. There's a lot of road in between, and if you have a look on VeloViewer just to see where the wind is coming from, 82 k's to go. They've got quite a bit of cross tailwind back into headwind before the Camel. So yeah, first part of it, cross tail, tailwind, super fast, and then a hard run in before they get onto the Camel again.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see today the condition as well of these Plugstrats, these ploughed streets, the farm tracks effectively, as we look back at Mathieu van der Poel again laying it on in this group. I think we'd seen this off shot, and it's Jonathan Milan, interesting enough, the big Italian, well, track rider, sprinter as well, who now starts to drive clear as well. They're playing the numbers, and playing the numbers well, Little Trek, Adam, by the looks of it, putting the pressure on Van der Poel, who appears to be isolated.
Yeah, I think that they're definitely putting the pressure on enough, but maybe too much too soon here. They have to remember they've got 81 k's to go. They've done 3 climbs already. I think they can afford just to use the situation to say we're in a good situation, but not the worst situation. Sorry, Jez, I was just finishing off what I was saying there.
Yeah.
But yeah, with such a long way to go still, and with this large group behind, you don't want to go in too early too soon with only a small amount of riders reacting behind, because they're not going to sit up, because they're in a good situation as well. So it's difficult. Apply the pressure, but don't go all in just yet.
Every different kind of road surface in Kempen. Look at that classic Belgian slab concrete roads with the death ridge down the middle, little rumble strips as they go along it. Lovely and smooth to ride across until you hit those ridges and those joins, of course. Then we have the cobbles, probably best known, of course, from the Kemmelberg in this race, but it's not the only cobbled sectors at all. They've been over some in the first 100k as well, out towards Werne, in the longest section, the Wernerstraat as well. And then, of course, the Plugstrats, the Plug streets, the ploughed streets that we have to come in the next 30 kilometres, which are completely different. They're much more like Trobro-Leon. They are muddy tractor tracks, effectively, in between farm fields, and they're a wonderful, iconic mid-section of this Heuvelland section of Gent-Wevelgem in Flanders Fields. There's our leading group. Get my groups right as we look down at them now, Adam. That is then Group 2. You correct me if I'm wrong as we look down at them. Not a big gap. This is Group 3, chasing that little group in front of them. Right. That actually looks, if I'm not mistaken, like Casper Asgreen on the front as well for Soudal Quick-Step. It certainly looks like he's warm on the hoods, pulling hard on the bars. And we know they had Tim Mullier in that original selection up the road.
Mullier was there, yeah, but when Van der Poel goes, can be quite difficult to keep up. You just don't know how much work or how Mullier's feeling as well going up that Camel. If he's holding things back, you might think it's a bit too early to start jumping around just yet with these guys. You need to just wait a little bit, play that, or not play that waiting game, but just gamble a little bit that things will come back together like they did last year. Yeah, before the Camel for the final time. Well,
Adam, I mentioned I've been bigging him up all year because I think he impressed me so much at the Tour Down Under, and I'm going to keep bigging him up. Lawrence Pithy's made that leading group again. He's only 21 years of age, a Group Armour FDG rider, and once again showing his classics pedigree. He's not just a sprinter, he's a great bike handler, and again he's in that leading group. I think, well, I don't know why Stefan Kung was banging his bars behind, but he's got a man here. There's Pithy right in the middle, second wheel in from our corner here.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic ride, and he's got in very, very good company as well at the front there.
Extremely good company. The Uno X rider is Rasmus Tiller. Big, strong man for terrain just like this. Actually, you know, Tiller needs to be considered a threat, doesn't he, Adam, for sure. He's shown his pedigree. I mentioned Trobro-Leon earlier. He's finished on the podium in Trobro-Leon as well. He loves a bit of rough terrain. Trouble is, they've got Milan out front.
Yeah, I like this move that Milan's done, but at the same time, it's giving his teammates behind, Stuyven and Mads Pedersen, a free ride. They don't have to chase behind, so they can leave it to the others. But with one man out the front as well, it's not the end of the world for the riders that are chasing. You know, they're not thinking we need to get him back, we need to really pull this back immediately, because it's only one rider. It's such a long way to go. So as you can see, just from the body language like Van der Poel, these guys are not flat out trying to bring Milan back. They're just cruising through, doing what they need to do. And the two Trek riders, Pedersen and Stuyven, are just happy as Larry. I mean, Trek have played this very well. They've had numbers on in E3. They've got numbers in here again today. That attack on the front that Milan put in. It's great to be able to put the pressure on Van der Poel or whoever's trying to chase him, just to try and tire them out that extra little bit more, because we know what they can do in the finish. We know how strong Van der Poel was in the E3, and you can't just wait for his attack. You have to try and tire him out before that. So
look at this as well. This is the front. Sorry to interrupt. This is the front of the peloton, and they are definitely slowing things down here, Lidl Trek, as well. Alex Kirch and others just getting in the way of Kasper Asgreen and those who want to press things on. If anything, the pace has gone right out of this group. We can see Jasper Philipsen sitting second row as well. Max Volscheid there necking a gel as he does so. In fact, a number of the riders at the front of that group have a teammate up the row. So they are just spoiling things by the looks of it a little bit, Adam.
Yeah, I think just backing off a little bit, just trying to stay towards the front in case any moves go, but just trying to disrupt it a little bit, you know. They've got 3 riders up the road, so if you were Lidl Trek, it's the exact thing you should be doing, is just trying to get in the way politely, I'd say. Like queue jumping almost.
Yeah, this race may be illustrating once again that Lidl Trek have really upped their game this year. They haven't had a massive influx of new riders, but they've just played the game right. Maybe a bit more money coming in from Lidl has helped. I don't know. Be an interesting thing to find out, I guess. But they bring a very strong team to this race. Jasper Stuyven, as I mentioned, in very, very good form as well. But Jonathan Milan with 3 wins to his own name. Here he is out front as well. 3 wins to his name. Interesting, Adam, you and I often talk jerseys together. There was a real split of opinion about that Lidl Trek kit when it first came out, and I'd be willing to bet, of people watching now, it's getting a little bit more love. It's definitely easy for us to spot as commentators, which is handy. It's a funky affair.
It is, yeah. I mean, I think everyone's got used to it, isn't it? It's like when anything new comes out, you're like, what is that? I'd never wear that. And then after 2-3 months of seeing it, you end up quite liking it. But yeah, Trek last year coming into this year, they made a lot of investments. They moved a lot of riders around, brought new riders in, got rid of old riders, and it's working brilliantly for them now. If you look at the classic E3 the other day, they had strength in numbers there. At San Remo, they had strength in numbers there. That investment has definitely worked well so far. They've not had the big classic win yet, but they're knocking on the door. Interesting, Van der Poel just on the radio there and doing a lot of work as well.
Yes, absolutely, a lot of work. That Lidl Trek plan maybe to get him doing work is definitely working if that's the case. He wants to keep this big group behind at bay. The problem is they've got the Plugstraat to come as well, and I think those farm tracks, those ploughed tracks, are going to cause problems for some of this group. I can't believe we're going to come off the back of the Catacombs with a group that big chasing. There'll definitely be numbers dripping off the back of it. But the problem is, it's Kasper Asgreen really who's doing the lion's share of the work, because that team, Soudal Quickstep, don't have anyone up the road now, do they? They don't have anyone at all, Adam. So this is Kasper Asgreen chasing to try and bring back into play any of his teammates who are still there. And I must say, from looking through the group, I haven't really noticed who's there. But presumably it can't just be Kasper Asgreen. If it is, then it's a really desperate attempt. It can't be, though, in a group that size. We go back to Jonathan Milan at the front.
No, it's not just him in there. Malia will be in there for sure. It's an interesting one because they've got Malia in there as well, but they've also dragging Philipsen across to them if they get across to it. So they're just in that difficult situation where they've missed a move. Their big leader of the day, Malia, they need to get him back in the game. They need to try and get him close to the front group before the climbs come again, before Van der Poel and the other riders start to jump around, and Timmerlier will struggle more. But with only Asgreen riding, I wonder who is left in that group, and also the other teams that have missed it.
Yep.
Are they going to contribute soon, or are they just waiting for that team to tire themselves out as much as they can? Because I'd say I wouldn't want this group in front to get too far away.
Well, I am presuming as we join these pictures back, for those of you who've been away on a breakaway, that Tim Malia is probably in that chasing group with Kasper Asgreen on the front of it. He was there or thereabouts. He was in our leading group earlier. They got reabsorbed, and I presume Tim Malia is there. We do definitely consider him as a favourite for the day, what with his 6 wins already this season, and of course his customary win in Nogara Corsa just a couple of weeks ago. But Mathieu van der Poel here we have driving the group who are chasing Jonathan Milan, multiple European and world champion on the track in the team pursuit, and continuing to develop as an elite road rider, not least a sprinter, but a very powerful rouleur too. There he is out front with a little slender gap over that Mathieu van der Poel-led chasing group. They're coming onto the first of our Ploegstraats, the first of our ploughed streets as well. Last year, I took this opportunity to read, of course, John McRae's In Flanders Fields poem. I thought this year, Adam, just very quickly, I'm going to get this in. I want to read a very quick excerpt from a letter from an unnamed, unsourced German soldier who was stationed to exactly where we are right now on these hills overlooking Flanders. I'll stop reading this if anything major happens, but I'm going to quickly read it to you. These are his words. I'll make use of the short time I have to report to you. About 10 days ago, we left our quarters and were packed off to the railway station. One day and night passed, then the train came to the final stop. Getting out of the station, we were greeted by shrapnel. And after a march of several hours, we took our stand in a wood, our headquarters being a small town which was daily under fire from the enemy. Right away on day 2, we were wounded. One of our men died, and then we took up our position. Work was carried on day and night, changing off in shifts. The way to our position was partly among trees, and I've lost where I am. Was partly among trees and partly across open fields. Grenades annoyed us very much. The nearer we got to our position, the more grenades there were. We went forward, crouching, making no noise. It's night. Fireballs flare up, lighting the surroundings for a moment with a dazzling glare. Grenades explode with a regular crash. It sounds like breaking wood, only 1,000 times louder, with a metallic clang. You hear the steel break into 1,000 bits. Now and then a foot soldier is asked, how far is the enemy from here? Answer, 200 meters. You go further and then ask again, 50 meters. Nothing stirs. 5 meters. Everything is quiet. And the rest of it, Adam, in that letter, I would read. But one, the action's kicking off in the race. And two, it is actually too horrific for me to read it out loud. And these are the translated words of an unnamed German soldier writing back to his loved ones at home. I thought it would be an interesting comparison to what I normally read out during Gent-Wevelgem, reminding us of the impact on the Great War on all sides. And this is the first of the Ploegstreets, the Ploegstraat, ploughed streets between the farmland. You can see where the mud has been scraped off it and pushed up onto the sides to make it slightly more passable. But even still, hard-packed gravel. Pretty common sight now in World Tour racing. Of course, Fred Wright, the British champion, now comes to the front for the first time, chasing back Danny van Poppel, if I'm not mistaken, and there is Jasper Philipsen, man in form. Of course, his teammate is up the road. So Jasper Philipsen now just sitting on the front of that chasing group. Mathieu van der Poel just out of the saddle, rising up over the top of Hill 63. First of our three.
Yeah, Van der Poel doesn't seem to be bothered at the minute about doing all this work either. He's been doing the majority of the work in this small group. A couple of the riders that are with him are not in Trek. Have not been giving him too much assistance coming into it. The position is obviously a lot easier for them, but Fred Wright doing the damage at the minute. He's splitting this group up nicely. He's got Philipsen sat right on his wheel, however, and I say that he wants it to get going a little bit again. Van der Poel on the attack, trying to put the hurt on, trying to bring back Milan and just get rid of a few riders that are in this small group with him. Pedersen glued to that wheel, though.
Yeah, maybe he's got Christoph Ruphoff, his DS, watching our coverage, Adam, in the car. Blythe has just said you're looking like you could pick it up a bit more, and he's off. Oh, it's split that group properly as well, hasn't it, on this Ploegstreet?
Yeah. So you've got Van der Poel at the front, Pedersen, then Pithy behind him, then Stuyven. Tiller's just going out the back there along with Tim van Dijk as well. That gap has suddenly grown very, very large, very, very quickly. Interestingly, in the background, you got Jasper Philipsen just looking like he was about to take a bottle there on the front, and then you got what looks to be Trentin just behind him, Danny van Poppel, Fred Wright, Stefan Kung, Michael Matthews. I think that's Tish Benoot just behind as well. So all the strong riders towards the front in this group, but the wind, not only the gravel, the compacted gravel that are racing across, the wind is causing havoc on these little roads as well. Not enough room for them, blowing them to one side of the road, so you can't get that much shelter. Still
it's dry and dusty, Adam, isn't it, as well? You could be forgiven for thinking we're watching Strade Bianche at this stage with the white roads. It's compacted and dried up really nicely. You can't see a speck of mud on the riders compared to what it was like less than a week ago. Wow.
Yeah, beautiful day for racing.
Yeah.
Beautiful day for racing. Not a beautiful day to be sat behind Van der Poel, though, because that man looks like he is on a mission.
Yeah, looking at those flags on the right-hand side of the road there, block tailwind for these riders right now. They are absolutely shredding. And Van der Poel, as you say, laying it on thick. Let's watch what that does to Jasper Philipsen behind Adam. Sorry.
I don't think Philipsen, he'll just do what he can. He's obviously not going to chase him. But I think there's Stuyven looks like he's got a slight problem with the gears, like he can't get a hard enough gear. A little bit of leg braking coming into this so he can get onto the back of them. But it looked like he had a slight issue with his gears. See if he gets out the saddle coming out this corner, or he might have a puncture. There he is, looking down. Hopefully we'll get the camera shot of him now, but that is not good for Mads Pedersen. Yes, he's got Milan in front, but I think Milan, when he gets caught, which he will get caught very shortly, yeah, here is Stuyven. So it looks to be, yeah, rear wheel puncture.
Yep. There you go,
well
spotted. No, completely the wrong place as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, completely the wrong place. They should have mechanics at the end of this, of the sections, with wheels, etc. for them. But yeah, this is not at all a good place. Stuyven on great form as well. Second the other day on Friday to a Van der Poel.
Yeah. This is Ploegstraat 2, second of our unpaved sectors. Just going past there, well, the preferred scene of the Christmas truce, that football game that took place on Christmas Day, so well known in World War I history, of course. And Mathieu van der Poel now just in a group of 3 with Pedersen. And our neatly formed chasing group has now splintered. Rasmus Tiller just swinging off the front there, the Uno-X rider right in the middle. Good ride by Tim van Dijken in there with the number 7 on his back, with Tiller and Stuyven. It's that big chasing group, although it has definitely got smaller, Adam, hasn't it? It's continuing to get smaller.
Yeah, it's definitely reduced in size there, but it's still a very large group considering what they've been across so far, what the terrain they've been across, including the wind more than anything. But it's good to see riders are riding on the front. You've got Tish Benoot just sat there in second wheel from Visma Lease bike. So they've got Tim van Dijk in the front. He's just off the back of that small little group that's gone clear with Van der Poel and Nick Pedersen in it as well. So he won't be too far off trying to jump across this, and this is perfect for the likes of Tish Benoot. Make it hard racing all the way until the Kemmel, and that'll benefit him. Then he might be able to try and get across on the Kemmel. But that's if Van der Poel doesn't do Van der Poel things well. 3 in the front. There's Stuyven's wheel change right at the end of the Ploegstraat. Hopefully it'll be a fast change.
Yep, hand wound by the look of it, right in that little feed zone there. And all the while, our lone leader, Jonathan Milan, just gets on with it as well. He looks good. I always think when I watch him like this, Adam, I can't help but think of his pedigree as a pursuiter. So I'm always thinking, well, you know, he's got 4K of this in him. But gosh, is he a diverse rider as well? He can do a lot. Let's see though how he copes with the next of these Plug Streets. This is on to the 3rd and final one. This is the catacombs, under which still to this day hundreds of men are buried, many of them Australian soldiers who were part of the tunnelling division. The tunnels were blown up, and incredibly sadly, of course, the vast majority of them are still buried underneath the hill over which the riders are racing. I'm never ever, when I'm commentating on this race, going to make the mistake of contrasting the battles of World War I with this race. This is just a bicycle race. It doesn't even compare. But it's ruddy good racing, though. I'll tell you that much. It's totally smashed apart, hasn't it, since we came on air, Adam? Coming back across the flatlands of De Moeren, where we knew the wind would cause problems, but we come into this part of the race and it's completely different terrain, entirely different terrain, narrow, rutted, muddy, and the race has smashed to pieces.
Yeah, it has smashed to pieces. I'm interested to see what Milan will do here, because it's a lot of work he's having to do just to sit out front there, and it's a lot of effort he'll have to do with a long way to go. 66k, they've got still the next 4 climbs coming up after this as well. So I think that it's hard to say just back off a little bit and let these guys catch you, because the group behind, the main peloton, is only just behind as well. But with them being that close, it's almost that you don't want to go all in right now because they've got strength in numbers at the front, but at the same time, you don't want to back off too much just in case the group behind never really comes back, and being ahead of Van der Poel on the Kemmelberg especially is a good thing. He might be able to come across to you, probably will be able to come across to him, but I think it makes it a little bit easier. And then he's got the joy of Mads Pedersen being in the front as well, where he's got that free ride in the back, but it's a difficult one for Milan now because he's not in no man's land by all means, but he's in a difficult situation. Keep going, really pursue this, and hopefully I can last till the finish, or just back off a little bit.
I haven't yet seen Mathieu van der Poel look round to Pithy and Pedersen, really. I mean, Pedersen obviously won't do anything, as we know, because he's got Milan out front, but I wonder whether he's tried to get Pithy to work. And Pithy seems, if he's not, Pithy seems to be in this wonderful position now, Adam, where he's just sitting in there. I know it's going to be hard, but another step up from Lawrence Pithy today at the age of 21. Looking good.
Massive step up, yeah. He's looking really good. It's a nice little reminder.
By the looks of this as well, I don't think Jonathan Milan's really tiring either. Getting out of the saddle and kicking on. Climbing away
like
now.
He is.
Well, wow.
He's got that style that you know that he's putting in effort.
Yeah.
I think that's the easiest way to describe it.
Right, that looked like, if I'm not mistaken, Yves Lampaert, former Belgian champion. It was Yves Lampaert, so he is in that group, chasing behind, which is a good sign for Soudal Quickstep and Tim Merlier. If anyone's to help Merlier get into a position to be ready to win this race.
Yeah, I think with the gap being so small and with not many of the Quickstep riders being in the front, they don't want to go all in to try and bring this back like they did with Asgreen before. I think there's plenty of other teams that have missed this move that can contribute to it. So just try and save a little bit, try and just keep a few of your riders back. Tim Merlier is still in there on the right-hand side towards the back, just on Fred Wright's right-hand shoulder. More riders coming back into the mix from behind.
Yeah, they're into a much more open section. It's up and down all the time, but they're riding back towards the west to take in the Heuvelin climbs again in the same order as well, starting with the Monteberg. The only difference is they go up the Kemmelberg the other way on the final time. And I'll remind you, last year it was on the next ascent of the Kemmelberg, on the Belvedere side, where Wout van Aert and Christophe Laporte took off. A little bit of sustenance for our lone leader, Jonathan Milan, who is still being chased by the man who, well, rode off like this solo to take E3 on Friday, Mathieu van der Poel. Only ridden this race twice as well, Gert Verwegen, hasn't won it. He was 9th in 2020 and he was 4th in 2019. It is a race, Adam, surely, that Mathieu van der Poel will add to his palmares at some stage, whether it's this year or next year, or the year after.
I think he'll probably get it eventually, won't he? He'll get it on his palmares before he retires, that's for sure.
Pretty certain. Although I do you know what? I found myself looking at my start list this morning, Adam. I thought, actually, time creeps on at the same rate for all of us, doesn't it? And I suddenly realised that Mathieu van der Poel is now 29. Before you know it, he'll be a 30-year-old rider, then getting into his early 30s. Sometimes when you look at his palmares, you realise how long he's been around, but he still seems like a youngster. Well, then again, he's a fresh-faced lad, isn't he? Far more fresh-faced than I am, that's for sure. But he should now be, you know, if you were to ask the physiologists, this is about the age where you're in your absolute prime, isn't it? You're late 20s, he's 29 now. This is where he needs to make hay. And he's doing it. Of course he is.
Oh, he's doing it all right, crikey. He's 100% doing it, Jez.
Right. I'm not trying to tease some criticism out of you. I know it's not going to come because there's no need for it either. Right, this is interesting. So as Jonathan Milan comes back, textbook move by Mads Pedersen, the former world champion, making Lawrence Pithy chase now. Pithy looks for a bit of help from Van der Poel. I think he'll get it, but that could be a problem for this group. Poor old Jonathan Milan having to cope with that, having been out there by himself. He'll try and hang on to Pithy. That's him gone by the looks of it. Adam?
No, he's not gone.
Or he's just coasting.
No. He's just coasting. He's obviously legs are hurting, but I think they could see Pedersen sitting up, and that's just that little bit of free wheel, just that little bit of recovery so he can get himself onto the back, but he is definitely not gone.
Well, we're being
Pedersen
treated.
there. Yeah, playing the perfect tactic, but at the same time, putting Milan under a lot of pressure. Get on the wheel, get on the wheel, get on the wheel. It's nothing worse than being out the front for about 20k on my own. Finally got caught on my teammate attacks and almost puts me out the back immediately.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for that. He deserves a good result in this race, Jonathan Milan, after the way he's ridden. And he's a well-liked rider as well, too, isn't he, Adam? I seem to feel within the peloton and amongst the fans as well. The Italian.
The emphasis will definitely be a lot on Trek now with Pedersen there as well. Let's not forget he's not done any work on the front for what, 20Ks, 25K. So now that they're all back together, he'll have to do a lot more work. And these guys are chasing behind now as well. They're back to a minute, but there still is a possibility. And the way these guys are riding, they might be able to bring that 4 back at the front.
Welcome back, those of you who've been away for a break. We're watching a leading group of Mathieu van der Poel, Lawrence Pithy, Mats Pedersen and Jonathan Milan leading this, the 86th edition of Gent-Wevelgem in Flanders Fields, as they head back towards the Heuvelland Hills again one more time, starting with the Monteberg. It's got a little bit of a pause between where they are now and the start of the climbs. Just while we're watching this coming together of a group who were off the back of our main peloton, trying to come back in, it looks like... that's not Kasper Asgreen again. Poor thing. He's had a hard day out, Adam, by the looks of it. He's got Axel Zingle as well just behind him, the Cofidis man. This group will try and get back on. There's one of the Ineos riders. I'm not entirely sure that isn't Ben Turner, actually. If it is, he'd been looking good earlier, but it's a tall figure from Ineos, also in that group, trying to come back. Just before we come back to that, just a little plug. I was mentioning, of course, on Friday, it was Adam and Rob Hatch that were bringing you coverage of E3 Saxo Classic. I was going to call it E3 Harold Becker. That's where it is, but it's not what it is. Mentioning Rob Hatch, it's worth me pointing out, Eurosport has just recently started a weekly destination for your cycling news, interviews and all things. I'm sure Adam Blythe will rock up on there at some point as one of Rob's guests.
I was on it.
Oh, there we go. You're on the first one. I've not even seen it yet. Thank you. Well, you can tell us what it's about. I know, all I do know is it's on our Eurosport channel, the Eurosport YouTube channel, every week, and Rob is presenting it. Adam was on it. Adam, did you give any nuggets of, like stories of old, that sort of thing?
No stories of old. We just had general little chit-chats, really. There's a little bit on Jasper Philipsen, what I thought a team might suit him to go to, and yeah, little updates on the races that have been happening so far, and our thoughts around that, really. Not just other races, but other little bits and bobs as well. So yeah, it's a nice little listen. So yeah, it's on the Eurosport Cycling YouTube page if you want to watch the full thing. And if not, just head to the Instagram, at Eurosport Cycling, you'll be able to find the link on there.
Yes, I'm pleased to say lots of fans finding so many things that we're now doing at Eurosport. New things we're rolling out. Lots of regular fans will also be pleased to see lots of them are very, dare I say it, GCN-like. Our highlights packages, our social media clips. And of course, we are and always have been the #1 destination for cycle racing worldwide. And that continues, of course, right now as we're adding new things like that weekly show, the Gruppetto. Rob, I know you'll be watching. I'm more than happy to come on the Gruppetto with you and chat birds and fish, if you'd like. I can talk to you about all kinds of birds and fish related to European cycling. I know fans will love that. Anyway.
I think he's just...
Yeah, actually, he's ringing. Yeah, Rob's ringing me, actually. No, he's not. Sorry.
Rob Hatch has left the group chat.
Right, Jordi Meus, I think, at the front now for Bora Hansgrohe, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look up at my screen. Yes, it is. The Belgian rider. Working, maybe Danny Van Poppel was still in that group too. He looked good earlier. Let's see whether Bora Hansgrohe can bring themselves back into the frame. Well, we're having a look here at highlights of the race. I've just mentioned to you the E3 Classic, the Saxo Classic from Friday. This was the moment that Mathieu van der Poel went clear. It was exactly that moment as well that unfortunately Wout van Aert had crashed. Don't think Van der Poel... Well, I'll come back to ask Adam now. Adam, do you think he knew? You don't think he got it in his ear, did you? It seemed to be a bit of just a clash of timing at which Wout van Aert went down and Mathieu van der Poel went clear. But it was a long way out from the finish too.
It was a long way. Yeah, I think
50k from the finish.
A little bit less than that. But Van der Poel in that race on E3 on Friday, he was just constantly attacking. We've seen him put in 2 moves so far. He put in about 10 moves. There's one of them that he put in. That was his second to last one, I think, before he finally went on the Paterberg where Wout van Aert crashed. But yeah, he was a man on a mission on Friday, and even with the crash of Wout van Aert, he's still definitely the strongest in the race. I think if Van Aert had crashed, he was still. He showed to everyone that he was the strongest in that race. So looking at this now, if you're in that group with him, with the likes of Pedersen in there, if I was the other 2 riders, I was Pissy and Milan. Milan's going to have sore legs. There's a repeat of the crash on the right-hand side. But I would definitely, if I was Pithy, I'd just be trying to do bare minimum. You know, you're in a group there with a world champion, a previous world champion in Mads Pedersen. Jonathan Milan was one of the fastest finishers in the world, but a super strong rider and teammate who will lend his hand to Mads Pedersen in terms of going on the attack early, maybe. So if I was Pithy, I would just be literally trying to do bare minimum and just say to the guys, you know, it's like, I am here, yes, I'm with you, but look at who I'm with you guys. You know, you're the world champion, you're the ex-world champion. It's up to you guys.
Yep. Good to see those very short highlights of E3 from Friday. Don't forget you can catch it all, of course, back at your home of cycling at Discovery Plus. There is Laurence Pithy, short turn rolling through on the front, the 21-year-old who has gone through, wow, a big step up over the course of the winter. It really started at the Tour Down Under, where Adam and I were working through the night, bringing you those gun-to-tape highlights. Of course, you can catch all of that back, Stu, of course, on our Discovery Plus coverage. And Laurence Pithy was really impressive at TDU, not least on the final stage when it got hilly as well. He's a very versatile rider. If it was to come down to a sprint between these 4, I still think it'd be quite close actually between this leading group of 4. In fact, Adam, that would be a fascinating sprint, wouldn't it, on the Van Ackere-Straat in Wevelgem, were those 4 to stay clear. I don't know where I'd place that, especially considering how much work Mathieu van der Poel has done. Not that it ever seems to have too much effect on him.
No, it would be interesting indeed, but yeah, I don't think that would be a factor, but we shall see. There's still a large group behind at 44 seconds.
Yeah, looking to see this third group. No. John Degenkolb was rolling through there. Sorry, Adam, I'm just interrupting you for a second. John Degenkolb, and I think as well, it looked like it might have been Corbin Strong at the front of that group as well, the Kiwi. I'll look to see race numbers, but I think he was in there. Yes, it is Corbin Strong. Well spotted, Coxey. Halfway down that group, just off the back wheel of John Degenkolb. Casper Asgreen just behind them. Who else is coming back in? Let's have a look. Dylan Groenewegen. Dylan Groenewegen in there as well in this group. So some fast men in there too. That looks like Danny Van Poppel going through as well. Kees Bol. And Albert Torres, who at the age of 33 is making his debut at Gent-Wevelgem. I found that surprising. Of course, he is an extremely illustriously decorated track rider, Albert Torres. Multiple world and European champion, if I remember correctly. Timo Kilik is the Alpecin de Koning rider, right at the back. The Belgian, knowing he's got players in play at the front of this race in Mathieu van der Poel. That was young Gil Kelders as well, the Belgian, who's been involved in an early crash today as well, the 21-year-old. Good work being done by Jordi Meijers. I've seen him being used like this quite a lot this year, Adam, already. Not only was he a winner on the Champs-Élysées at the Tour de France last year, let's not forget, winning one of the most important, if not the most important sprint of the year, bunch sprint of the year. And there he is doing long turns on the front for, well, I say for Danny Van Poppel. Who's he working for? I hope he is working for Danny Van Poppel. That would be good, wouldn't it?
It would be very good indeed, yeah. I think if Danny Van Poppel in this race before, he's got the pedigree to get over these climbs. He's that fast, explosive, punchy rider, lead-out man, as we know. One of the best in the world at being a lead-out man as well. But yeah, I just think I think he's just trying to bring his team leader, Danny Van Poppel. He's trying to get him back in the game, give him a chance, because I think if they leave it until they get on the climbs, well, I know if they leave it until they get on the climbs, this man in the white on the front is just going to go hard up there, and that gap is going to be even harder to bring down. So on these roads now, the flatter roads, the roads with the easier terrain on, this is the best chance for them, for any team with a sprinter, to try and bring them back in the game. Because as I said, as soon as they get into the hills, with the wind the way it's blowing, tailwind to the finish, it's going to be so difficult to bring not just that man on the front, but any of these 4 riders back. If they're all together, and if they're not, it's still going to be super difficult.
So amongst our 4 leaders here, I've just heard Jonathan Milan screaming for water, specifically water, into the feed at the side of the road. Didn't get any either. It's fascinating, you know, Adam, I can't help but laugh hearing you talking there. The language that we can use as commentators to describe Mathieu van der Poel and the way he rides is so basic. There's no complexity to it. It is, as you say, if he chooses to ride hard, it's going to be incredibly hard, and usually if he chooses to ride hard, he tends to win. There's not much, there's almost not much to sort of analyse, is there? It's just waiting to see if and when he does it, and then whether it works. I mean, at the moment, he's just pressing on at the front of this group, isn't he? Continuing to add to it. 30 seconds between them and... Oh, sorry. Yeah, is that 30 seconds? It's saying yes. 30 seconds between them and the chasing group.
Yeah, and now they're coming onto the Monterberg as well. So this is a climb before where we saw Little Trek get to the front, block the road, and then lead into the Kemmel. So that once they get to the top of here, they get about 1.5 kilometres, rest slightly downhill, which then they lead onto the Kemmelberg once again. So this is the little climb before it. And for these guys, you know, last time we saw them, it was all about positioning, getting into it. Now with only 4 of them, they don't have to worry about that. So there's not going to be an ease off on this part of the climb. There's not going to be a big acceleration before they get onto the Kemmel. If they went into a first, second, third, fourth, it doesn't really matter in this situation for them because there's only 4 of them. But from behind, I expect that gap to come down because they'll ride hard into it. Ben Swift on the front now for Ineos Grenadiers. They've got Turner in there. I got an update earlier from one of the Ineos riders that Narvaez crashed quite hard early on, so he's not in the race anymore. So fingers crossed he gets better for next Sunday for the Ronda. But yeah, Swift just driving the place, trying to bring that gap down, trying to make it as easy as possible for the likes of Ben Turner. Pedersen on the attack. This is interesting before the Kemmel as well.
Very interesting.
Oh no, he's sat up now, looks around, saw he distanced Milan, sat up. This is the difficulty with Milan, right, that he was out on the front, he spent 20k out on the front on his own, brilliant. But he got caught, got brought back by Van der Poel, and now as soon as Pedersen attacks, he's just out the back straight away. So that's strength in numbers. Yes, they've got 2 riders there, almost, but they don't have that strength of 2 riders in there because by the looks of things, Milan's quite cooked.
Yeah, a man who is riding faultlessly at the moment, again, is Laurens Piffy. It's been Mathieu van der Poel and Mats Pedersen doing the attacking, and all the while, 21-year-old Laurens Piffy just sits there. Milan back in now, though. So the 4 at the front back together. Former British champion. Swift at the front here. Ben Swift for Ineos Grenadiers. Who's he got in there, I wonder? We know that Jonathan Narvaez is out. That's a great shame, actually, Adam. I thought Narvaez rode brilliantly in E3 on Friday, but maybe it frees up some other riders at Ineos Grenadiers to have a go, because he would have been their focus. Here we go. Here we go. Fantastic teamwork. Jonathan Milan goes again. I'm sure he doesn't want to. I'm sure his legs don't want to. But he's playing the team player now, isn't he, the Italian?
Yeah, he's doing a good job at this. I mean, this is the only thing he can do, really. He's trying to get ahead of these riders before they go over the Kemmel. But just look at Van der Poel. He's not even asking for help. He's not looking over his shoulder and asking for help. He's just happy to do it on his own. But Milan, yeah, this is a perfect thing to do. But look at Van der Poel behind. Milan looks like he's coming into the last 10k. Van der Poel looks like he's on a club run behind, just having a bottle, cruising along. Not first look around, ask for a little bit of help. Sees that he's got Pedersen on his wheel, realise that he's not going to come through. So it's just almost a cruise until he gets onto the Kemmelberg. But for Milan, if he can get over the Kemmel with these guys or just in contact with them, then it gives Pedersen this great chance here to just be able to follow the wheels. Doesn't have to do any work. She's just giving Mads Pedersen that extra little bit of rest. Every time he goes up the front, even if it's not going to come to anything, he's giving Pedersen that rest, the chance that he doesn't have to pull through, doesn't have to do work on the front. He can make Pitti and Van der Poel do all the work. And the way Pitti's riding, he's just forcing Van der Poel to do the work.
So headed towards the Bannerberg now, the second of these 3 climbs that lead into the second ascent of the Kemmelberg from the Belvedere side.
Onto the Kemmel again now.
There we go. Oh, we've gone over the Vandenberg already. Thank you, Adam. Well spotted. Straight into the left-hander, onto the Kemmelberg. Second ascent. The final time from this side, the slightly easier Belvedere side, which starts steep, has a false flat in the middle, and then steepens again towards the top. Poor old Jonathan Milan is out there again, and Mathieu van der Poel just rolls through onto the front. Pithy holding on as well. But van der Poel in that familiar sort of threshing style, sitting down and just watching. At the moment, Mads Pedersen doesn't have to do anything, Adam, does he? Just sits and waits, although it's hard. Hello, hello. They're a lot closer behind than I realised. It says 19 seconds. That's the front end of our, well, we call them the peloton.
Yeah.
The chasing group is coming back.
There's Trentin behind, Mathieu Trentin, then he got Ben Turner, the man that Ben Swift was riding for from Ineos Grenadiers, sat on the wheel there. Then you got Stefan Kung just behind that, Søren Kragh Andersen from Alpha Sinterkoning, Bini and Gamay there on the left-hand side as well. Jasper Stuyven still up there even after the puncher going back into that group. I'm trying to see where any big name sprinters are
there
as well.
too. I think Olaf Koy is there at the front as well.
Yeah, Philipsen in there as well.
Oliver Naesen
really hammering it here.
Yep.
Van der Poel's in trouble.
This is interesting. Pithy has sensed what they're coming. You're right, Mathieu van der Poel looks like he's gone a bit too hard at the bottom there. They're nearly over the top of the Kemmelberg for the second time. Jonathan Milan just dangling in front of Matteo Trentin. Trentin looks good today for Tudor Pro Cycling, getting a little bit clear of Ben Turner at the front of that peloton. Bini Gourmet, former winner there, of course, from 2 years ago, right at the front of that group. Oliver Naesen going through our shot too. Anthony Turgy, the Frenchman, right there.
I say he looks like he's in trouble, but that's the first time we've seen anyone roll past a Mathieu van der Poel on a cobble climb, apart from Pogacar last year, and make him look like he's properly suffering. I was about to say earlier, it's rare that we see Van der Poel do not race days back-to-back, see this Grand Tours and one days and everything, but it's rare that we see him trying to win consecutively on day after day in such a short period of time. Yep. Magnus Sheffield up towards the front. There's Ben Turner going through his teammate. Philipsen just rolling through. Shot in a minute, I believe he was just up there, if he's not rolled through already. There's Tim Malia up there as well. Yep.
It is gradually coming back together. Now, you mentioned Mathieu van der Poel racing very close together. Is that Alex Kirch, I think? It's gone down. He looks like the Luxembourg champion. Deary me. Don't think he touched the grass at the edge either, but he went right over the bars and banged his chest as well. Thankfully, there's someone there to straighten his bars out. Deary me.
I think he came out that corner and either pedalled too early or clipped his pedal. Oh, sorry, he's either clipped his pedal on the floor or his gears have slipped as he came out that corner and just went head over heels. Oh.
Yeah, I did mention earlier, this descent can be tricky. We've seen some nasty crashes on the path. Let's see it again. Not that we probably really want to.
Just coming round the corner now. Does he? Yeah, clips his foot on the floor and then just straight over the bars, just a shift of weight towards the front of the bike. But even that little crash there, you can see just that hold up, that little gap that opens up. For whoever's chasing that, looks to be one of the Olaf Koy, the Visma Lease bike rider. It'll just be brutal to close that little 2-3 seconds just to start from a dead start once again.
Alex Kirch there having the sense to be on the radio, letting his car behind know that he might need a change of something or other, although it'll take a while to get through to him at that point, Kirch. But ever the professional, despite the fact he hadn't even got up yet, he was straight on the radio telling them. But that's the first chink in the armour of that team we've seen today, Lidl Trek, and boy, have they looked good. Right, Matteo Trentin, the former European champion, now riding for Tudor Pro Cycling, putting the hurt on this chasing group too, by the looks of it. And here's Magnus Sheffield, the American rider here, rolling through at the front. Yeah, talking, Adam, as you were about at Mathieu van der Poel racing consecutive days like this and trying to win. He won on Friday. If he does win today, he will be one of only 5 riders to have won the E3 and Gent-Wevelgem in the same year. They are the ones who've done it already. Jan Raas in 1981, Mario Cipollini in 93, Tom Burnham in 2004 and 2012, as we watch Matteo Trentin going clear. In fact, Trentin's had a look round and done a bit of oh, come on, I could do with someone with me, I think, by the looks of it. Either that or he expected to be further ahead. Just to complete that list, by the way, Greg Van Avermaet did it in 2017, of course, E3, and Gent-Wevelgem in that fantastic purple patch of his brilliant career, the recently retired Greg Van Avermaet. So that's the Belvedere done with from this side. We now have Scherpenberg and Banneberg in quick succession to then lead us into the crucial final climb of the Kemmel, the Ussuer side, which is the final big climb of the day. We do go over the Hugerkrater lump next to the cemetery there on the way into Wevelgem, but it's not as bad as that final ascent of the Kemmel, which is definitely the hardest one. It's the high point of these hills, as I say, but it's going to be a tough one. Not yet. They've got to go back on themselves and back over the Scherpenberg and Banneberg one more time. The fans in this race definitely get their money's worth, Adam, don't they? If you're out on the Banneberg or the Scherpenberg, it's a great place to be this Sunday afternoon, coming into Flandrian Holy Week, as we so often call it. I would love to be there today in these conditions, in the sunshine.
Would you like to be on the Banneberg, or would you like to be at the finish in one of the beer tents, Jez?
No, I hate being at the finish of races unless I've got a microphone under my nose. Cofidis, dearie me, that's not like the angle of the... Right, just so you can see who we've got down here. Amy de Gent, I think, by the look of the number on the bike, it doesn't look like him, but it is him. That doesn't look good. He's come down with Rasmus Tiller. Rasmus Tiller was just being pushed back into action there, having looked so good in the last 50k. That's not good. It's a dry day, so in and out of these towns and across the crossings and things, you'd usually expect it to be a bit safer, but the speed is right up because they're picking up bits of tailwind as they turn eastward again, and they aren't half going fast. By the way, Adam, we had our chat earlier with Barry Hoban. He was telling me in the week when I was on the phone to him that when he won that day 50 years ago, the race was 244k, so similar length, in fact slightly shorter than today. So the idea that these classic races are getting shorter is a myth by that count. He said he was riding obviously a steel frame with only a 6 block at the back, the cassette of course, and the average speed for the whole race 44 kilometers per hour as well. Not bad considering the conditions they were riding in, and the fact that despite the fact that he was a recognised sprinter, they didn't have lead-out riders in those days. The sprinters had to battle for themselves. Well, welcome back those of you who've been on a break. What a shot you are seeing. The current world champion, Mathieu van der Poel, has never won Gent-Wevelgem, and yet here he is in the 86th edition, looking good but doing a lot of work. He's in company of a former world champion, the 2019 world champion, Mads Pedersen of Lidl Trek, who've really played it brilliantly today, that team. And they have 21-year-old Lawrence Pithy of Groupama FDG right there with them. He is in a perfect position. If he can hang over the final time of the Kemmelberg up the Ussuer side, the young Kiwi is putting in the classics rider of his life so far, despite the fact that he is just only 21 years of age. This is Matteo Trentin trying to bridge the gap, but making hard work of it by the looks of it too. And this is the reduced chasing peloton that we see behind, led at the moment by the looks of it by Intermarché Wanty. Oh, I do apologise, it's actually Visma Lisa bike in the yellow. Binny Girmay sitting there. We've mentioned him, Adam, already, haven't we? So good 2 years ago when he won this race. He's had a rough old time since then, but he's sat there in good position. Wonder whether the Eritrean is yet to play his cards. Well, he is yet to play his cards, isn't he?
Yeah, he has yet to play his cards, but I think he can play them, you know, jumping across to this. He needs to use that whole peloton. Trentin just in no man's land at the minute. I think he'd have liked it if a couple of riders came across to him. But these guys, it's not a done deal that they're staying away to the finish yet. With this peloton like they are behind, and let's not forget, Van der Poel, yes, he's got this opportunity out front. He's got an opportunity to win for himself here, but let's not forget, he's got the winner of Milan-San Remo behind him, the rider that he helped to win that race, Jasper Philipsen as well. So even if they get caught, it's not the be-all and end-all. We've seen him switch roles, as we did in San Remo, where he helped his teammate. And it wouldn't surprise me if he did it here. And just thinking the way that he went up the Kemmel there, like I said earlier, it just looks like he's not that super fresh like he was on E3. Doesn't look like he's... just looks like he's doing too much almost, a little bit. I'm not going to say overconfident, but just looks like he's doing too much.
Maybe it's all in. Maybe it is all in for Jasper Philipsen. Maybe we'll look back on this if we see it come back together and Jasper Philipsen wins a final sprint in Wevelgem. Then maybe we'll look back and go, well, you know, why? Now it makes sense that Mathieu van der Poel could be out front trying all he likes, do everything he wants, because even if they do get caught, They've got the best sprinter in the world sitting right there. And look at the numbers as well of Alpecin de Koenig jerseys just bubbling up at the front. Maybe this is the act that we're seeing played out in front of us, Adam. And Van der Poel is just out front, distracting in a way, seeing what happens. And if they happen to stay away, maybe he wins. And if he gets caught and is completely exhausted from all of his efforts, then they've got the best sprinter in the world, locked and loaded behind with good support by the looks of the numbers there.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty much what they've got to do. You know, Van der Poel go out. If you can win from afar, win from a breakaway, great. If not, if it comes down to a sprint, they've got one of the fastest men in the world in this group still, Jasper Philipsen. So yeah, they've got it all bases covered really, which not many teams do have within this group. Ben Swift on the front now for English Grenadiers. I think that Turner's the only rider in there still.
I think Magnus Sheffield is there too, Adam. I think he is.
Yeah,
he rolled through
sorry.
a few moments ago, so maybe just the three of them, something like that. It'd be nice to see Magnus Sheffield. Still, also, like Lawrence Pithy, still only 21 years of age. Maybe see him play something in the closing 30-40 kilometres of this race. Just looking back at the season so far for Lawrence Pithy, you and I, of course, were watching him closely in that Santos Tour Down Under, where he took that very fine 5th place on the Mount Lofty stage. That final stage looked very, very close to the win as well in that stage. But the good results continued as well. He had national championships after that. He won the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race, of course. Went on to take 8th in Le Saman just a few weeks ago. Then rode Paris-Nice. Got 2nd and 3rd on 2 stages. Then he was 15th at Milan-San Remo and 15th at the classic Brugge de Panne in the week just gone. Could this be the best of them, though, for young Lawrence Pithy sitting at the back of those 3? Looks good still. You know, heading towards the final ascent of the well, we're going to go to the Scherpenberg first and then the Bannerberg, as I say, very nearly there as well. As you can see, the hills rising up in the distance just in front of them. Once they're over the top of the Kemmelberg, they have 36 kilometers left, riding eastward back in the direction of Kortrijk, I suppose, the biggest town. But before they get there, they ride into Wevelgem itself and finish on the Van Akerstraat.
Yeah, this part of the road they're on now, it's just a long drag up here. I think Ben Swift being on the front, I'm surprised no other teams have come up to help. You know, you've got Visma Lease bikes out there. You've got all the other teams. You've got Jake Olula with Michael Matthews still in there as well. Quickstep Tim Malia looks to be still in there as well. Gamai, so you've got Wanty that are not pulling on the front. I can understand that they might want to get over the Kemmel for their last time, Tudor Pro Cycling as well, but I'm just surprised that they're just leaving it up to Ben Swift, the one rider at the minute. There's Michael Matthews. He's got Walshite just in front of him as well, the tallest man in the peloton. Sat there. I don't know if he's done any turns yet or given Ben Swift a turn, but you'd have thought by now they might have tried to. Bora as well. You've got Marco Haller coming up. They've been doing a little bit of the work earlier on.
Yeah, so that's our assumption, isn't it, that Bora will be working for Danny Van Poppel?
Yeah,
we presume.
I'd say so.
Yeah. Interesting to see Total Energies coming up. They've already had a good result this week as well with Jason Tesson, who took 4th in Brugge de Panne on Wednesday. I was looking forward to seeing him here today, but he's not here, interestingly enough, although they do have Emilien Jonier, who was 9th on Wednesday. 2 Total Energies riders in the top 10. Really quick ride through that corner as well. Thankfully, I think, Adam, everyone through.
Yeah, no crashes.
No. Yeah, we don't want any more. We've only had a few, although the ones we have seen have been quite nasty. But yeah, in dry conditions like this, even though the wind is blustery, we would have fingers crossed for a relatively safe day.
It's at this point now, like, what are they looking around at? Your position coming into the corner. Now you got into the corner in a good position. They don't want to ride on the front. The teams that they've obviously got their plan, and it might be to get over the Kemmel, whatnot. But if these riders aren't playing around, they're just carrying on. When they get to the Kemmel for the last time, I'm sure that we'll see some attacks. We don't know how much they've got left in their legs, but you'd think that there'd be a team, one more than just one team that wants to ride at the front, not just position and then sit up.
Well, they've covered 210 kilometres so far, all these riders. They have 43k to go to take us to the full, dare I say it, monumental type distance of 253 kilometres. 26 seconds the gap. Probably near enough for Lawrence Pithy to look over his shoulder on this long straight road and start to see them maybe in the distance. Everything, nothing to lose and everything to gain for Mathieu van der Poel. And for this group back here, an opportunity to chase it back. At the moment, Bora Hansgrohe doing a bit. Entomarche Wanty, I nearly added a circus in there, also doing their bit, and now Ineos Grenadiers as well.
It's Swifty once again, Ben Swift on the front once again. He's got Ben Turner on his wheel. When the riders came past him, just had that breather on the wheels, a little minute rest, and now he's back on the front once again. But they need to do it, you know, there's no other team that wants to take control of it. It's Ineos Grenadiers who just happen to do the majority of the work for the likes of Ben Turner, the likes of Sheffield, to try and bring these 3 riders back out the front. But like I said earlier, I'm surprised no one else is even bothered about helping. They obviously all want to be there. They want to all be at the front. That's Ben Swift's job done for the day. Is the left turn onto the narrow road of the Bannerberg. And it really does get narrow up here as well. So positioning for the peloton. That's why they're all trying to get to the front, trying to stay in a good position.
So on to the Bannerberg for the final time. They've taken in the Scherpenberg already. This is the penultimate climb, the last climb before the Camelberg on its hardest side for the final time. What's notable though, Adam, even though it looks like this chasing peloton are kind of messing around a little bit, 23 seconds. If they'd really been messing around, then the 3 out front would be a minute clear by now. These little rises, the little pushes from these guys at the front of our chasing peloton, even though they're looking around a little bit, it looks steady. It can't be steady because we know how hard they're going out front, and 28 seconds is nothing really.
Are they going that hard out front though?
Ooh,
we think
good question. Good question.
There's nothing to say that they are going super hard out front. There's nothing to say that they are going a little bit easier out front either. You know, these guys out front are riding within themselves a bit. You got Yetzebol on the attack now, just trying to go clear. He's got a Wanty rider with him. But yeah, we don't know if they are riding full gas or not. They might just be riding within themselves before the climbs. Ben Turner on the attack, the man who's positioned by Ben Swift. He's gone straight over the top of that. A Tudor Pro Cycling rider following him in the background. And a Trek rider as well, just behind them. Followed now by Visma Lease bike.
Yeah, this is coming into the Bannerberg, an opportunity to use these last 2 climbs to see if they can smash apart, at the very least, smash apart the group they're in as well. Not happening though, because it's Visma Lease bike who are sewing it back up. I think that is Tim van Dijk, yeah, one of the Van Dijkers anyway, who's in there. How many yellow jerseys are there in there for Visma Lease bike? There's about 4, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in that group. We're presuming one of them is Olaf Koy, the 22-year-old making his... sorry, he was a debutant. I was going to say making his debut. He was a debutant last year where he was 8th, Koy, at the age of 21. 1 year older, 1 year wiser, 1 year with a stash more wins as well. Yeah, maybe you're right, Adam, watching their faces here. Look at Mads Pedersen and Mathieu van der Poel. Maybe not going, maybe going 78%, 82%, 70%. Not as hard as these 2 at the moment, that's for sure. Ben Turner's looking good.
No, just riding at a reasonable pace. If this lasts till the finish, you can't just start going full gas now. They've got to get over the climbs, and I'm sure we'll see an attack over the climb. So for each and every climb they get onto from now till the finish, well, there's only 2 left, with the Kemmel one being the hardest one and the last one, they'll want to make sure they're not going into that knackered but not knackered, but not going in with a heart rate too high. They want to be able to explode into that and be able to get over it as fast as possible. So they're not going to go full gas up these climbs beforehand. But the gap is coming down. It's about 20 seconds now. We'll see in the background there, the head of Ben Turner. There it is.
Yeah, the Bannerberg itself reaches nearly the same height as the Kemmelberg. It's about 15 or so metres lower at its high point here. Quite incredible, there's a ski lift to take you up to the top in the direction of the Kemmelberg as well, Adam. Only in Belgium could you have a ski lift to take you up to the top of these kind of hills, but they are crucial landmarks in our great sport as well.
Little Trek just behind blocking the road as well there. You have to remember that one of their fastest riders, Mads Pedersen, in that front group, and in this group that they're in, they've got faster riders to the likes of Jasper Philipsen in there, Tim Malia in there as well, so they're not going to want to bring it back when they've got super fast riders, and then their fast man, their sprinter, they still have Stuyven within that group, but their super fast man who's won bunch sprints is here, so they want this gap to grow, and you can see that 36 seconds now back to the peloton.
Yeah, it wasn't just Lidl Trek either. There was Stefan Kung there for Groupama FDG, just sitting there, blocking the road on that narrow section on the Vandenberg as well. This is Ben Turner, and he has Hugo Page with him, the Frenchman. Sorry for not picking him out earlier. Riding for Ontemarche Wonti. I don't think I've mentioned Hugo Page this year, Adam, actually. Been quiet, the Frenchman. But looks good. He's got the right move today, getting in with Ben Turner, although where are they now?
Acceleration at the front. Fred Wright by the looks of things. Stefan Kung on his wheel. Bahrain have not had the best run at it today in terms of having all the riders in the right groups at the right time. They've always just been on that back foot by the looks of things.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is Corbin Strong sitting third or fourth back there. Now, if it does come back together, there's a nifty fast finisher. Trouble is, the run-in is quite flat and fast too. Not quite to his suiting, but good prospect for a top 10 today, Corbin Strong. Kiwi riding for Israel Premier Tech. Meanwhile, another Kiwi making a big name for himself, as if he hasn't already. Lawrence Pithy just sitting in some extraordinarily illustrious company at the front with Mathieu van der Poel and Mads Pedersen. So we're seeing 31 seconds back to Group 2 and then 45 seconds to the group behind. Group 2 is those two riders trying to come across, Ben Turner and Hugo Page. Here they are. Hugo Page having the sense to look round and see where they are. 10 to 15 seconds or so ahead of the main peloton. This is all in though now by the looks of it for these two. And once they hit the Kemmelberg, they'll know about it. Yeah, and you can see, can't we, Adam? You can see the race into the Kemmelberg is already on. Riders looking to get advantage of each other. Interesting enough, Alpecin de Koning numbers moving up too as well. Where is Jasper Philipsen? We need to start keeping an eye on him, because if Plan A was always Philipsen, then I wonder how he's preparing for Plan A to go into action should they be caught.
I don't think it's Plan A. I just think it's exactly the same as San Remo. You know, both of them. We know that Jasper's got one of the fastest finishes in the world. Van der Poel is one of the strongest riders in the world. Obviously, we don't have to tell you that. But I think, you know, let Mathieu race. Let him do what he wants to do. Let him go and be Mathieu, basically. And if it comes down to a sprint, Mathieu, being Mathieu, is part of helping Jasper as well. So I think Jasper's just got to get over this climb, see how close these guys are, and judge it from that. You know, they're not going to chase to bring the world champion back. And for the other riders, if Tim Malia is in there, which I do think he is, I think the likes of Quickstep will wait until they get over the Kemmel, make sure Malia's over that in the peloton in a good group, and then try and bring these riders back. But if they do that beforehand, they blow themselves up before the Kemmel, Malia's not going to have the teammates and the resources to bring them back. So they're in a tough place. They're positioning into the Kemmel vital, get over the Kemmel with Malia there, and then just get on the gas all the way to the finish and try and bring not only these riders back, but the three in front as well. Another attack.
One more rider, yeah. Looks like Total Energies, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
Anthony Turgis. Yeah.
Looks like Turgis, yeah. Yeah,
it does look like his form. Now, he was good in this race last year as well. In fact, he had attacked, if I remember correctly, just before Laporte and Wout van Aert went clear as well, and he'd been looking really good. He appears to have something in his hand as well. I don't know what he's got in his right hand, whether it's something he's taken off at an opportune moment to attack, but looks like the form of Anthony Turgis. Mads Pedersen takes a swig. I don't think Lawrence Pithy, he doesn't need to, does he, Adam? He doesn't need to do turns, but I don't think we've seen him yet so far do any really long turns at all on this group.
Looks to be there. Mads Pedersen is trying to pick his chain up onto his big ring or move something across. Something's just catching that he's not sitting comfortably. He's not been on the radio yet. He's not asked for assistance, but playing with something. Oh, little grimace on Van der Poel's face.
He's playing for the cameras, Adam, surely. You know what Van der Poel's like. I reckon he's doing it. He knew you'd say that. Now, you're right, you know, there have been... You're right, there was that moment, wasn't there, where Pithy came past him on the... Was it the last ascent, the middle ascent of the Kemmel? And he just looked like he was having to work a lot harder to kick the gear over on those cobbles to get level with Pithy. So I just wonder... I mean... Like if I'm going back 15, 20 years ago, if you read any book in sports physiology, they'd say it's 2 days after that you feel the load of what you've done 2 days before. You might be pinging the day after a big performance, but it's 2 days after that you'll absolutely die. Now, I know that's or that you'll get the load of muscular soreness and all that sort of thing, the DOMS, but I know that's different for every different rider. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that. If you put in a massive day, Adam, when you were racing, the next day or 2 days later, or what? When does the load hit you?
After in the neutral zone of the day that I am racing. It's never easy.
No.
I just can't believe that. I just can't believe Trek here. Well, I can believe Trek are doing it because it's a brilliant way to do it, but I just can't believe any other teams aren't doing anything about it. I mean, Alpecin are on the front. You've got an EF rider on the front there, just sat there. I mean, I don't know why they're not pulling into this. Obviously, there's going to be an acceleration, but the more they wait, the bigger that gap grows. But here we go. The final ascent of the Kemmelberg. The hardest ascent of this.
Yes, you're right. This is the hardest one. Sorry, Adam.
No, that's it. That's all I was going to say. It's a beast of a climb. It's a brute of a climb.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if Pedersen's managed to sort his gearing out. Looks to be, but he's definitely accelerating. Pedersen with the attack. Look at the way Van der Poel's sitting. He just doesn't look as comfy as he ever has done. That shoulder's just digging in that little bit more than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Pithy just goes backwards ever so slightly as well now.
Yeah. Lawrence Pithy is learning all the time, and this is where the learning starts as well, because the gap has cracked open. Can he try and get back in terms over the top? Tries to get out the saddle and can't. Sits back down. Mads Pedersen seated and driving hard. He is making the world champion work. There's no doubt about it. Mathieu van der Poel is having to work pretty hard there to stay with Mads Pedersen. They should go over the top together, though, Adam.
Yeah, easy over the top. Pedersen, both of them just grabbing a bottle before the finish. Now it's 2. Can Pithy get on? If these guys start to look at each other, play around a little bit, they might be able to. I was just looking then to see Van der Poel. He might have been running a bit of a bigger chain ring on the inside, maybe a 44. So he looked slightly in a big gear, so I don't know if he's running a 44.27. It was just that little bit bigger than what we've normally seen him at. Here's Ben Turner.
Yeah. They've caught Anthony Turgis. This is Ben Turner and Hugo Page. They've gone past Turgis. I think Turgis was ahead of them. Was he? No, sorry, he's attacked to try and get across.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. Yeah. Fred Wright looking good today. The British champion leads on to the cobbles of the Kemmelberg for the final time. The first time in this direction, though, the Ussuaire side, which is much harder, as you can see, the effect it's having on this peloton.
There's Melia just gone past on the left-hand side. He's got Yves Lampard just in front of him. Philipsen is on the right-hand side, just tucked behind his teammate Soren Kragh Andersen, so he's still in there. Michael Valgren, great to see him back at the pointy end of a bike race as well after having that horrific injury last year. Trentin's still in there. I'm intrigued to know why Toynes is going so hard on the front here. It's got Danny Van Poppel on his left-hand side as well. Danny Van Poppel, as we know, one of the best lead-out riders in the world. Biniam Gamay right up there as well. There's Philipsen on the right-hand side. There's Olaf Koy there as well in the yellow on the bottom right-hand side of our screen. So all the big sprinters. I didn't see Merlier where he was, but 2 of them still in that group. 58 seconds, though, back to that group now.
Jesper Stuyven looked good as well, right at the front of that group too. So even with Mads Pedersen out the front, Lidl Trek have numbers to play behind. Now, I don't think there'll be anyone watching Adam that doesn't want Lawrence Pithy to get back on. He would richly deserve that. He just got distance in the middle part of those cobbles on the final ascent of the Kemmelberg. Let's hope for his sake and for the sake of everyone watching he gets back on, because that would be a fascinating battle if he can get onto the coattails of these two. They know it because they both look back to see where Pithy was, and that in a way, Adam, might show the respect they have for how strong Lawrence Pithy is, because if they thought he was weakened they might not have bothered looking back, but they were both turning around to see where Pithy was, so maybe they expected him to still be there.
Yeah, I think,
now.
you know, having a little look round now to see not just where Pithy is, but the other riders as well, the other parts of the peloton. Pithy railing it round that corner as well. He was not hanging about. This is the chance that Pithy's got now, this slight downhill here. If he can get himself back in contention, he'll be back in the game with those two. But after that, it drags up ever so slightly, just a little bit, and then rolls along up these drags. And 2 against 1, even in this tailwind, is going to be very hard. Then it's what he's got left after it. Everyone's going to be near enough on their limit coming into this last 30k now. But if Pithy can get on in the next 2-3k, he should be able to hang on with them until the finish.
Well, the top 3, as they stand on the road at the moment, quite predictable, apart from Lawrence Pithy maybe, who's made another big step up today. But I guess few would have picked maybe Hugo Page and Ben Turner being the chasing two, who are chasing out three out front. But that's the way it is after that final ascent of the Kemmelberg. They also look back up the climb, the descent as it is, to see who is coming at them.
Yeah, they've got Turgi just behind, who launched that attack later on. But look how big that gap is.
Yeah, and it's quite a big group as well, Adam, isn't it? So unless they get well organised behind, if they're sitting on and blocking and looking around going on, certainly for the leading three, should Pithy get on, then things look quite good for them. It just depends who chooses to get organised behind. Will Bora Hansgrohe start to put numbers behind it? Will Magnus Sheffield take part in the chase as well for Ineos Grenadiers? There's other teams in there that have got cards to play.
I think Ineos aren't going to do any riding now. They can't do any riding even if they did have cards to play, because they've got Ben Turner out in front. So if they had cards to play in there, they wouldn't have sent Ben up the road for one. But I think, you know, teams like Quick Step, they need to get on the front now. Alpecin, they've got the joy of having this man out in front, so they're not going to have to do anything. Then you've got 1T, they're in that sort of predicament where they've got Hugo Page out in front as well, so they don't have to ride. So the numbers are limited. Michael Matthews still in there with Jake Aula, but it's how many teammates he's got left, and that goes for all the other sprinters that are still in the race. What teammates are left in there? What damage can they do? The main one I'm looking at is Quick Step. If Quick Step can get on the front, they might have a chance of, I'm going to say, bring these riders back. I don't think they're going to be able to bring Pedersen back, and Van der Poel, obviously.
No, I agree. No, I agree, Adam. We're looking. Are we looking at another win for Mathieu van der Poel after his E3 win? Of course, a lot yet to happen since then. And Mads Pedersen not only is a powerful operator, but a very canny operator as well at the front of the bike race. The 2023 world champion and the 2019 world champion right at the front. Lawrence Pithy in a time trial now. He's gone from cobbled climbing, shown off his sprinting already this season, and now he is in a full-on aero time trial race in the direction of Wevelgem and the Van Akerenstraat, where this race finishes in 30 kilometres time. It's a cruel, long chase back. We talked earlier, Adam, didn't we, about these Flandrian classics and this this predominance of the very hilly last third, followed by a flat, fast, quite wide run into a finish. And Wevelgem is the absolute epitome of that. Epitome, I should say, of that. We're looking back here at Wevelgem in 2020. Again, of course, focusing on the Kemmelberg.
Go on, Luke Ray there on the left-hand side. Van der Poel there with Wout van Aert. That's when they started coming across. Riders bridging across the groups. And that's when they went on the attack. 4Ks to go. A wet finish on that one.
I'm just trying to think, Adam. Was 2020 delayed due to COVID? Did it happen later in the year?
No.
Ooh, I'll have to look it up. I can't remember. This was the finish, though.
Yeah, that was the finish. You got Matteo Trentin in the orange. Then on the left-hand side, I think it was Stuyven who it was. I can't remember the winner there. I think it was Stuyven. Stuyven, Senna, Shell was up there as well from Quick Step. Pedersen, sorry.
Wasn't it 2020, yeah.
What a plonker I am. I apologise, ladies and gentlemen.
No. Gosh, he looks like a younger Mads Pedersen there, doesn't he?
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah. Seneschal on the right, as you say. And Matteo Trentin riding for, what were they called? CCC? Gosh, it seems like an age ago. It's 4 years ago. Right. Is it, are we pre-playing the finish here, watching a Mads Pedersen win while he is out front? Not with Florian Seneschal.
If these two stay out in front, this will be a good sprint between these two. After 250 Ks in the legs, Mads is very good at sprinting, as we just saw, after a long, hard day in the saddle. And Van der Poel, I think he's a little bit gassed Still obviously very, very good, but just not quite there yet. I think the big difference is Van der Poel's got an amazingly good kick from a low speed, thanks to all his side crossers and what we've seen of him in the past. So I think for Van der Poel, slowed it right down to be great. I think Mads likes that fast, hard finish. So two almost very different styles of sprinting, but I'd say when they're up to speed, quite equally matched.
So this is our neatly formed chasing group of 3, now hooked up with Anthony Turgis too. The wind, slight cross tailwind. You can see that Kasper Asgreen there pushing out to the right-hand side. That is Tim Merlier with him as well. So Tim Merlier, Asgreen, Yves Lampaert, the 3 Soudal Quick-Step riders off the right-hand side of the screen, pressing into that wind, along with Tej Benoot with his knee strapped up. Thank you, Adam. Yeah, and so there we go. There we can see the gaps. 43 seconds back to the chasing group of 3. Oh gosh,
no,
110 and then sorry, yes, to
43
to
Pithie.
Right. Thank
110 you. To the group with Turgis, and then 132 back to this group here. So in this group here, Tej Benoot obviously riding for Olaf Koy as well. Quick Step, as we thought, get over the Kemmelberg. Hope that Tim Merlier is still in there. He is still in there, so then it's full gas all the way to the finish now. They have got another rider who's a little bit down towards the back. I don't know who that is. I think Michael Matthews is in there, but as we discussed, has he got any teammates left with him to be able to do any work? The majority of the teams that do have teammates in there, they've either got a rider up the road, so they can't chase, or they're on their own in that group, so they can't really do anything anyway, just on their own.
I guess the distance, Adam, and the hills in this race are quite a good leveller as well. The question I normally at this time of the day would start saying is, well, where are the best sprinters placed now if it is to come down to some kind of sprint? Obviously, between these two, as you say, we could be treated to a really tasty finish. If it's to come down to these two battling their way along the Van Akerenstraat, tactically, that could be really interesting. From the group behind, we've got Olaf Koy there. We think we've still got Jasper Philipsen there, arguably the best sprinter in the world. It's a great shame if we're not going to get to see Laurens Pithie unleash his sprint either. Yeah, he's on the radio. I just wonder what he's asking, Adam, whether he's starting to run out of reserves, because he has had a big day out. Let's see. Increasingly, it's Anthony Turgis who's doing the longer, harder turns, I think, of these 3 here. Hugo Page, very fine sprinter, proving his classics pedigree today as well, the Entourage Wanty man, and we know Ben Turner from both cyclocross and the classics over the last couple of seasons. We're looking down on the winner from Brugge de Panne on Wednesday, backing up, double winner now of Brugge de Panne, Jasper Philipsen, having won Milan-San Remo just 1 week ago. Was it really only just a week ago? Amazing how the weeks rip by once we're into classic season. What a brilliant win it was too. What a fantastic classic season we have unfolding as well. Multifaceted, so many different teams involved and so many teams pushing each other on. We look, Adam, at Lidl Trek and just how much they've come on as a classics team. Looking at them today, they're like the modern incarnation of Quick-Step, aren't they? The modern version. So many different options in the big classics.
Yeah, they invested, as we talked about earlier, they invested in a lot of riders in the winter, and that investment's paying off so far. Mads Pedersen's been in that team for as long as we can, well, I think that's his only professional team. I think he's been in World Tour level. So yeah, they've always had Mads there, and we know how good Mads is. Stuyven's been there for a long, long time as well, but bringing the likes of Jonathan Milan in and a couple of other riders as well. I think that the mentality's stayed the same, but just with some more horsepower and firepower in that team now, and it's just giving him the options, giving him the numbers a bit, and especially when you've got a couple of riders that can go up against this man, Van der Poel, where just play with him a little bit, you know, put him under pressure, make him do the work, which they've done brilliantly today, you know, using Jonathan Milan up nicely just to try Van der Poel out, so this man can have a little bit of an easier race and then get to this situation with him. It's perfect. And I think Mads, in this situation, he's obviously going to be confident the way that he's going. It's going to be an interesting sprint, this, as we talked about. Van der Poel is quite an emotional rider, isn't he? He's a proper bike rider in the way that he knows the history, his grandfather's history, his dad's history, and this is one of the races that he doesn't have on his Palmares yet. So I think for him to have that on his Palmares, it's not just winning Gent-Wevelgem, but it's to have it on his Palmares. I think he wants to have every single classic on there, and you don't know when the next chance is going to come around, obviously, but he will go deep.
Absolutely. This is one of those races that his father, Adri, did not win as well. Not quite to his riding characteristics. So these are now the final 23k of a 253-kilometre cobbled and Plug Street Classic, the 86th edition of Gent-Wevelgem in Flanders Fields, and it has been a battle. Riding back in the direction of Ypres, they'll pass under the Menin Gate one final time as well, these riders, and these are our leading 2-0. I'll go with that. The current world champion Mathieu van der Poel and Mads Pedersen, who seems to be in very good form this springtime. It would be a very great shame for him to pass through this spring without a classic win, Adam, wouldn't it? It'd be deserving of it, Mads Pedersen.
Yeah, he definitely would be. I think Mads is definitely the rider that he's always up there, isn't he? He's up there in San Remo in the front group. He was up there in E3 in one of the front groups. He's just very consistent, Mads, and you know almost what you're getting from him. You wouldn't be surprised if he didn't win. You won't be surprised if he won.
No, absolutely. And they're riding back through where they left some, what, 225 kilometres ago in this race. They'll ride back through the Menin Gate there, which is being, as I say, refurbished at the moment. Back across the moat, the other side of it. And it's Mathieu van der Poel who leads under the gate and out the other side. They have just over 20 kilometres to go to bring them towards Wevelgem and Van Akerenstraat, that famous finishing straight now that's been used for so many years. Their gap over what is now 4 riders chasing, 1 minute and 4. That's, I think. There we go. Laurens Pithy is now in with Ben Turner, Anthony Turgi and Hugo Page. And, well, that's an interesting battle if it stays like this, Adam, to see whether Laurens Pithy can get himself on the podium. I don't think there's anyone watching that wouldn't say that would be a deserved result as well. And he'd probably... he'd certainly have a battle with Hugo Page if it comes to a sprint between these 4, because Page is pretty quick. And wonder what Pithy's got left. He's had a... I know it's an understatement, but he has had a hard day out.
He's had a very... everyone's had a super hard day out, but yeah, he's had definitely a hard day out, that's for sure. Is that Groenewegen? No, it's Michael Matthews. Sorry, I thought that was Groenewegen then towards the back.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Corbin Strong still there, sitting at the back of this group, which is now a Soudal Quickstep-led chase group. They've got Wilfred Peters as their DS today, and I have a sneaking suspicion that Peters may have been shouting in their lug holes to do something in this race now and make this count. The 3 of them right at the front, the 3 extraordinarily strong riders. A former Tour of Flanders winner, Casper Asgreen, along with a Yves Lampaert, former Belgian champion, former winner of Brugge de Panne, in fact. What can they salvage from this Soudal Quickstep? The best they're looking at, I think, at the moment might be to try and snaffle, what would it be, 7th place. Because there are 6 riders clear at the moment. Having said that, the gap is coming down under that Soudal Quickstep chasing. The gap is getting a little bit closer. Wait till we see, there we go, 120. So we're talking about, what, 14 seconds between the big peloton and that chasing group of 4, and 119. Hang on, is that 119 from these 2 back to the peloton? Right, thank you, Adam.
119 back to those 2, and there's a little time check that we just had. We're not sure if they've been caught or not yet with that gap going, but we believe that they're about 10 to 15. There you go, 15 seconds just in front of the Pithy group, 15 seconds in front of the peloton.
There we go. Mathieu van der Poel doing a classic cyclocross thing there, going through that slightly tighter right-hander with his pedals level. Let's have a look at these 2 now. I think Van der Poel is just sort of having a drink and a rest behind, looking to see whether one of them is doing more than the other. Could either of these, I know they're not going to, Adam, I know they won't, but could either of these have an excuse to sit on a little bit more after everything that's gone past? You know, start feigning a few issues and problems? Any acting? Any room for that?
What, out of Pedersen and Van der Poel? No. Yeah. Might pull a few faces, but the champions, aren't they? You get this stage in the game, they'll just be doing what the other person's doing. I don't think they're going to back off or start doing smaller turns, because these guys are on their tails and hot on their tails behind, and they've got what, 3 quick-step riders. Yves Lampaert in there, you've got Casper Asgreen in there, you've got Tish Benoot chasing as well. I mean, there's strong riders in this group trying to bring back not only Van der Poel but the riders in front a chance to get on the podium. It's going to be difficult though in this tailwind. It's a super strong tailwind, a super fast tailwind, so I don't think they're going to catch these guys, but there is a possibility, a good possibility that it might catch the riders in front, the pithy group, and Ben Turner in there as well.
Yeah. If people are wondering why I've given up, sort of stopped describing the finish now, they're basically, it's very simple, they're riding due eastward with a nice tailwind. Dropped a little bit now, I think it's around about 25 kilometres per hour, pressing on their backs for these two, but they're following that tailwind all the way in until they turn left onto the final finishing straight into Wevelgem itself. They'll pick up little bits of crosswind on the way in, but there's plenty of built-up areas around there that will protect them quite neatly as well. So still being pressed by this tailwind at the moment, despite the fact they're into a little rise as well at the moment. This is that rise that takes them up and over the Hügel Crater Cemetery, going eastward in, as Adam and I have said today, really kind of perfect racing conditions. The tailwind, I guess, Adam, favouring a breakaway as well today, giving these two a little bit more assistance. I know it's all relative, but if they were going into a headwind now, if the wind was blowing from the east, this would be a much, much harder ride for these two to stay clear, I guess, despite how good they are.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
It definitely is. It's not oh dear yet. It's not oh dear yet. This 18 kilometres in this wind with this tailwind, that gap is a lot bigger than what it looks. But yes, it's not looking good for these. But the difference is those riders are all committed. They're not going to play. They're not going to faff around. They're just going to get their heads down and try and hang on to it. This is a good chance for all of them equally to try and get on that podium. But if they go back into that bunch, the chances just go down massively.
Yeah. There is that high point, the Hügel Crater Cemetery, that they've just crested, now leading three. That's really the only hill up to the top of where this is. And you can see it's not that much of a hill, but it is a rise just up past it, and then they slowly, steadily descend back down off this higher point opposite the cemetery. And there goes our chasing four. Should be able to see the peloton any moment now. And it's being led by the team in yellow, Visma Lease Bike, who come into this with a, well, strong classics team, but as I say, no Wout van Aert and no Christophe Laporte, the two riders who by this time last year were clear by themselves and possibly already starting to try and work out who was going to lead across the line. In the end, they came across the line arm in arm, but Christophe Laporte pushed just a little bit further forward to take that win. Of course, that was just after Wout van Aert had won E3 on the Friday 1 year ago. Well, this time it's his big rival, Mathieu van der Poel, who won E3 on Friday and is now clear with the former world champion, Mads Pedersen. Take your pick. Adam, I know you'll never give me any picks, but I'm going to put it to you anyway. Who wins out of Pedersen and van der Poel? I know you're not going to give me it, but I'm going to ask it all the same.
I'm going to go Mads.
Oh, he's gone for it.
Yeah.
You heard it here. Right, Mads Pedersen. Well, I've got to go for van der Poel then. As my rank outsider for this race, the world champion. Only his third race of the year, though. So, as I say, still building gradually. Just getting work use. It's all training, isn't it? All training.
No, training's done, Jez. He's coming here to win. This isn't training. This isn't the old days. He's coming here to win every single race that he does. He's won one out of the two that he started. This could be the third. Well, 50% so far.
Ooh, right, okay. Ben Turner can see them. He can see Soudal Quickstep. Like I say, breathing down the neck, but they're right there. And Ben Turner looking like he's riding well today.
He's riding well. He's doing a great job. He's only got 6 seconds. They're not far behind, but this is what he's got to do. He's just got to try and keep that gap as much as he can and hope the riders behind them slow down, but the chances of that happening is very, very slim. But Ben, good on him giving it a good go. You know, he went out on the Bannerberg, went over the Kemmel. He's given it a good shot today, and he deserves a bit of luck, but I think out of everything, for Ben, it'll take, you can see him get frustrated, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. But I think for Ben, you know, it's the morale out of everything. You get into this situation in the race, you've given it a good go, you're able to get away. Going into the next race is the morale that gives you, the confidence it gives you is massively beneficial.
Right, Adam, we've been on air for probably about 3 hours. I'm just thinking, which teams have we not mentioned? Not really mentioned DF Education Easy Post. I'm looking at the 18 world teams we have here. We've mentioned Michael Valgren. He was in there in the pink of EF Education. the Dane. So we have at least mentioned them, but who else have we not seen? I know there's at least a couple of EF riders in there. Bora Hansgrohe we've seen doing the work, haven't we? It was Nico Denz, by the way, not Jordi Meus on the front. I had a message from Brian Smith saying it's... he didn't quite call me an idiot, but he may as well have done, and he's absolutely right, because it was Nico Denz. It's not the first time I've confused Nico Denz and Jordi Meus. They have a similar kind of semi-pained expression whilst on the front of the peloton. No disrespect to either, because they're both brilliant riders. So we have at least seen Bora Hansgrohe, and we know they've got Danny Van Poppel in that group too. Soudal Quickstep are now doing lots of work, so I can't pick on them. Can we pick on anyone, Adam, that we haven't seen? UAE, Niels Pollitt had a go, didn't he? He got across that gap by himself. Who else has been quiet?
Oh, there's loads of people that have been quiet, all the ones that we don't know and can't mention.
Yeah. I was going to pick on...
Philipsen has been quiet, and there's a good chance that Alpecin could get 2 on the podium here.
Yes, let's remind ourselves. The Monument winner, Milan San Remo winner, Jasper Philipsen, teammate of Mathieu van der Poel, who's on the front right now. He's sitting pretty in that group behind and waiting. Whether he's the fastest sprinter in the world, of course, we can never debate who the fastest sprinter in the world is. Is he the best sprinter in the world? I would say yes. But then some people might say Tim Merlier is at the moment. Well, we're about to see in this race on this day, should it come to a sprint from that chasing group, I can't help but think I just wish they'd done a little bit more earlier, Soudal Quickstep, in this race, judging by how strong Kasper Asgreen looks as well. Still get that podium if they play it right. And this men's race, as I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, right up there in my estimation of those races knocking on the door of #1 Monumental Street, I think. Now, Bora Hansgrohe getting involved now behind as well. That is Marco Haller, the Austrian. And lots of Entomarché Wanty riders in there, Adam. A lot of bright yellow. Binny Gourmet right in the middle there. Winner from 2 years ago. He's there as well. They're not having to really do anything at the moment, but they've got numbers to play. Entomarché Wanty. We know they've got Hugo Page in the chasing group, but having Binny Gourmet there as well, and he's looked good. He looked good on the final ascent of the Kemmelberg as well, Binny. So hopefully getting back to his best, because he's not quite got back there, Adam, where he was when he won this race. That was the same year, of course, where he won a Giro stage as well, took the pink jersey and then corked himself in the eye, of course. Really, it's in the time since then that he's not quite progressed in the way that we thought he might. Certainly as a classics rider, but maybe this is the next couple of weeks where we see him get back into his groove. I hope so.
He was definitely good in E3. We saw signs of Gourmet just sort of having that form that he used to have. He blew his absolute doors off in the last 10k, I think it was, 5k, and he just went so backwards. But yeah, I think for Biddiam it's going to be hard for him to keep up with the likes of Van der Poel and Wout van Aert when it comes to Flanders. But Roubaix is highly possible, and a rate like this today, he's still got a very good chance to, well, he's got a great chance to get on the podium.
Adam, you're seeing that note at the bottom of our screen there. It'll be the first time Mads Pedersen and Mathieu van der Poel have sprinted side by side. I presume that means as a leading duo, according to that, in any race. I'm trying to think. I must admit, I can't recall from memory, but in a way that slightly surprises me, actually.
I mean, it's not the biggest stat in the world, is it, that one?
No, but well, they're 29, and Van der Poel is 29. Mads Pedersen is what, 30, 31, I think?
Something like that, yeah.
Am I wrong? Something like that. So, yeah, there we go. Maybe it'll be the last time. Let's see. They've got to hang in there first to make sure it does happen. They've got under 10k to go now in this, the 86th edition of Ghent-Wevelgem. 2 riders clear, Mathieu van der Poel and Mads Pedersen. And now it's Bora Hansgrohe's Marco Haller on the front. And that is Jan Kilgelders bearing the scars on his knee of his crash earlier. In fact, he's got a couple of scratches down his legs there as well. He came down early on in this race, so good to see him still involved in this chase here. And by the looks of it, the 21-year-old Kilgelders is working hard for his team. That's a good sign to see. Fresh blood coming through Soudal Quickstep, applying himself well this deep into a classic race as well. Impressive.
These guys roughly rolling around at 40 miles an hour at the minute. You look where the cassette is, where the chain is.
Wow.
But exactly 1 kilometre behind these guys and 1 minute behind. So, yeah, you've got to do 40 miles an hour to do a kilometre in a minute. So rolling along 40 miles an hour roughly. Bonkers.
It is, isn't it? This is it's a decent tailwind pressing on them, and the run-in as well is smooth. It's a good road surface. Plenty of crowd to push these two on as well. A Dane and a Dutchman, but a Dutchman who lives in Belgium, of course, as we know. Mathieu van der Poel, usually very well supported, unless it's a cyclocross race where he's got Wout van Aert chasing him, maybe. But the Belgian fans do like their Van der Poel. I'm sure they'll definitely appreciate Mads Pedersen as well as a big classic star as well. I think they probably would have liked to have seen a Belgian rider in company with the two of them as well, but you can't have everything. We've got a dry day. Let's count on that as something special in this Ghent-Wevelgem.
Dry but a windy day. It's been one of these days where because the groups have been so small, we've not seen loads of attacks coming from the peloton, so it was a small group anyway. Van der Poel launched up the Kemmel the first time, split the group right down, then another attack from Milan. And pretty much after that, from that front group, that's been it. There's not been any other attacks. It's just been fairly stalemate all the way to the finish, really. The group behind, the peloton that's caught the riders that were in this group, or the riders that shot off the front, they've had to quick step and they've almost had to just wait until they get the last time over to the Kemmel with their sprinter to make sure they get over it, then to be able to get on the gas to try and bring these riders back or give themselves a chance to get on the podium, which they are doing. So it's been I think it's been a hard day to try and get your leader in the right place, try and get that team tactic together, because each team's got what they want to do in this race. But when this man starts jumping off with 70k to go, it's hard to... Let's try and get our sprinter over that last line with 30k to go. It's like, oh, it's difficult, very difficult. Yeah. It's one of the biggest bunches we've seen in Wevelgem, coming into Wevelgem for quite a few years.
Well, I guess part of that will be the tailwind, but also part of it must be the good conditions. Whenever we've looked back at a few editions in this race, Adam, haven't we? And every time it's looked absolutely miserable. Cold, wet, just dark and nasty. They've actually had a lot of sunshine today. I know that I'm talking a bit flimsy here, but I mean, that does help, doesn't it? It's not been... The weather has not been attritional. Yes, the wind has. We had the big splits. If you weren't with us for our coverage earlier, when we came to air, they were still riding across the moors in de Moeren, and that's where the wind really turned up, splitting the peloton into 3 big groups. But since then, the wind has actually been mostly helpful, as Adam said it would be at the start of the day too. But you're right,
Helpful
that is a big group.
Helpful for some, not so much for others.
Well, let's contrast the springs of these two, because they are quite different. Mathieu van der Poel there. Oh, a couple of words between them as well. Mathieu van der Poel there, riding only his 3rd road race of the season. Of course, I say he was 10th at Milan-San Remo. He was 10th at Milan-San Remo, but he led out the winner in the end. The conversation between the two of them as they came across the bottom of the Poggio, indicating that Jasper Philipsen had diamonds in the legs, and Mathieu van der Poel went all in for him as his teammate. Another little look between these two. I don't know whether it was a word being exchanged. Anyway, and then, of course, on Friday, 2 days ago, Mathieu van der Poel won the E3 Saxo Classic, riding away with 50k to go, solo as well. That was a hard ride. Has it taken much out of him? It doesn't look like it so far, but I wonder whether the tiny margins might count in a sprint against the likes of Mads Pedersen. We will see. In contrast to that, Mads Pedersen started his season much earlier, back in January in the Étoile de Bessèges, where he won his 2nd stage. He won a stage there, and then of course the overall as well at Étoile de Bessèges. He went on to win the Tour de la Provence as well, showing how well he was climbing in that race, winning 3 stages. So 6 wins already this year. He was 4th at Milan-San Remo, of course, and then 11th on Friday at E3. That is about 20 or so race days so far this year. 20, just over 20 for Mads Pedersen, and just 2 for Mathieu van der Poel. Let's not forget, though, that Mathieu van der Poel did win the Cyclocross World Championships again at the end of January, then had a little bit of a break after that. I think, to be honest, looking at how well he's going in the classics and on the road, Adam, the Cyclocross fans were pleased to even see Mathieu van der Poel doing it.
Looking how well Asgreen's going here, he's just dropped Yves Lampard off the wheel. He's had to wait for someone behind him. He's going like an absolute train there. That he's had to slow down and wait for the bunch or his teammates to catch back up to him so he can position Tim Malia. And man, he's motoring. 47
that's a good
seconds.
sign. It's a very good sign for him coming into the week, which has Ronde van Vlaanderen at the end of it, of course, and Dwars door Vlaanderen in the middle of it. Both races, of course, you can see here at the home of cycling. This is the back end of that big group. It is a massive group, Adam, as well, isn't it? And all those riders in there have a statistical chance of getting inside the top 10 at Gent-Wevelgem, and for a lot of those riders, actually, that might be one of the best results of their career as well, getting a top 10 place in a big classic like this. So that could make it a very interesting run-in, depending on who's there and how many from each team.
Yeah, I think on a day like this, you can definitely run a top 10 if you're still in there, but there'll be a lot of riders that are working for the likes of Quick-Step. They've got 4 riders that won't be trying to get in that top 10. They'll be having 1 rider trying to get him on that 3rd step of the podium, staying for 1T. Same for Visma Lisa bike as well. But yeah, there'll be definitely a lot of riders eyeing this up, thinking there's a good chance here I can get a high place in.
Oh my goodness, you're right. Casper Asgreen is absolutely drilling it, isn't he?
Yeah, it is Groenewegen that's still in there. Groenewegen is in that group still. I thought it was him. So just a little bit back behind Lotto Destiny riders. Groenewegen's still in there.
Well spotted. Wow. All right. Obviously, big, fast-finishing danger man. We presume Jasper Philipsen's in there. We could be treated to a really tasty sprint for the podium. In a way, it's quite, I dare I say it, not for the likes of Lawrence Pithy to hear this, but it's quite nice to only have 2 clear, because we know that whoever wins that bunch sprint will be on the podium with these 2. It'll be well-deserved. And I think we're going to get a very, very good bunch sprint there, as you say, particularly with Groenewegen. And Philipsen still there. Molière still there too. Wow. This is turning into quite the race, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting final from behind this. But first, we've got to get these riders across the line. The bunch only 600 metres behind them, 40 seconds. But yeah, these 2, I wonder what will happen. As I said before, I think the lower speed will suit Van der Poel with this tailwind. It's a slight cross tailwind now that they've got.
Okay.
It's a higher speed running into it. It'll suit Mads that little bit more, I think.
That's interesting. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Mathieu van der Poel has a lot of snap, doesn't he, from low speed, jumping out of the saddle and on the pedals. Maybe Mads Pedersen would like to go a bit longer. Adam, let me just pose this. There isn't too much room for cat and mouse and playing around between these 2, is there? There's no way they could start it yet anyway.
No, they won't do. They'll wait until they get under the kilometre to go, Banner, I think. It just depends how Mads wants to ride the sprint. I think Van der Poel, he'll be quite happy with sitting on the back and running it quite late. Same with Mads, actually. Same with Mads, I think. I think with Mads, he could play the bluff a little bit, you know. So this is the only, you know, you want this, it's there. I've won this race before, you know. There's so many different scenarios you can say. Both of them want it, I'm sure, as equal as the other one does. But it'd be interesting who starts sprint, who leads out the sprint. Big turn this for Pedersen in the last K.
Mads Pedersen, as Adam mentioned, the 2020 winner. Mathieu van der Poel yet to win this race. And you're right, I've seen it this week. He said, you know, he does want to add all of the classics to his final Palmares when he does eventually hang up his wheels. Looking into the city of Wevelgem itself, looking all the way up in the direction of the Van Akerenstraat, where we finish and where these riders finish in 1,300 metres to go. We're talking about it coming down to a final sprint, Adam. I just wonder whether one of these 2, maybe Mathieu van der Poel, might not want to leave it to a sprint with Mads Pedersen. He's on the drops. Any chance of one of these 2 taking a flyer in the last K?
No, I don't think so. Definitely Van der Poel wants to be on the back here. Short turn, little gear, just cruising through. Even when he came through to doing his turn, he did not push. Look at him just spinning the legs a bit now. He's definitely not going to come through him. He's going to try and get Mads to lead it all the way into the finish. They've got the room now to manoeuvre a little bit. They've got some room to play a little bit. But I don't think Van der Poel will try and go early. I think the way that we've seen and the way that Mads has been going, especially with the Kemmel, he's not going to surprise you with a long-range attack, I don't think. Or he might.
Here we go. We are on the Banakeres track. The crowds are banging the boards. Mads Pedersen, the former world champion, on the front, the Dane. Mathieu van der Poel, the current world champion, sitting second wheel, looking back, can't see anyone coming. Thankfully, it's going to be between these two. 400 metres to go. Mads Pedersen looking over his shoulder. Van der Poel on the drops, both on the drops now. Getting twitchy. Here we go. Ooh. Mads Pedersen opening up early, Adam, and he's gone early, Pedersen. Van der Poel's in the wheel. I don't think there's a gap just yet. Can Mathieu van der Poel come off the wheel? They're going to be up alongside each other here. Van der Poel in full effect right now, up alongside each other. It is neck and neck to the line. He's gone. Mads Pedersen gets his second win in Gent-Wevelgem in Flanders Fields. I don't know whether there was a problem there for Mathieu van der Poel, but he pulled the pin. He comes second. Here's that brilliant sprint for third. Jasper Stuyven. Is that Jasper Stuyven or is that... sorry, it might be Jonathan Milan. It is Jonathan Milan right in the middle. Jonathan Milan, is he going to hang on? Danny van Poppel! Danny van Poppel with a dip. All that work that was done in the end by Bora Hansgrohe paying off, because I think Danny van Poppel has just got on the line. Of course, I should have spotted the sprinting style of Jonathan Milan nearly taking third, but his teammate, Mads Pedersen, gets his second win in Gent-Wevelgem. And Mathieu van der Poel will have to wait for another year to add that classic, Adam.
Yeah, we said it early on. We noticed that sort of the second time up the Kemmelberg, up the easier side of it, we just saw Van der Poel looking like he was suffering a bit. From then on in, he's obviously Mathieu van der Poel. He's going to be good all the time, but just didn't look that sort of normal, sharp self. And even in that sprint there, you could see the arm going, but Pedersen just looked like strong all day long, looked super strong, had the benefit of sitting on the wheels for quite a long time as well while Milan was up the road. But yeah, Mads Pedersen launching early as well, about 250 to go, I'd say, 270 to go. But yeah, here's the replay of the sprint, so it's just head down. There's no real tactic here apart from just do it. Van der Poel waited for as long as he couldn't. At this point here, it was like, right, now I need to try and get past, head down. Didn't even get close to him, went up for another gear, but no, just did not have the legs to get past him.
Very impressive sprint between the two of them. I'm going to say it here, I don't think there's no excuse, because in the end, I think by the looks of that, Van der Poel just didn't have enough to come round him. But Van der Poel does do that, doesn't he, Adam? He'll quite often, I mean, he's still going to come second anyway, but he does quite often, he knows, and he'll pull the pin and stop pedalling once he knows he's not going to win in that. Not every time, but we have seen that quite a lot, haven't we? You know, there was me wondering whether he had a mechanical problem, but it was literally, the kind of that shake of the head thing that he does. I've seen it a few times before, haven't we? When he knows he's not going to win. And he does win so often, of course.
Yeah, I think we've not seen it that much because he normally always wins, but yeah, but he just knows when he's beat as well. Yeah. And I think he probably knew when he didn't have the legs, but nice to see him having a pat on the back. But yeah, it's nice to see this man win as well. It's been coming for a long time, this, where he's been wanting that big win up against Van der Poel, Van Aert in these sort of races, and he's got it.
Oh, absolutely.
Very well deserved.
Absolutely. It is, of course, his second win in Gent-Wevelgem, because he was the winner back in 2020, 4 years ago. But he and his team, I think it should be said, richly deserve that today, because they all rode really well, didn't they? They were the dominant team in this race, Little Trek, Adam, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. I'd be interested to know who was second there. It looked like Danny van Poppel third, sorry, not second, third, Philipsen fourth, and maybe Milan fifth or sixth, I think it was. But definitely very close on the run.
Yeah, he was. That was a great sprint, wasn't it? We could do with seeing that sprint again. Hopefully, I'm sure we will. That was, what a fantastic edition of Gent-Wevelgem in Flanders Fields in mostly sunshine. It looked beautiful as well, and at times, particularly on a grey, wet, horrible day, Western Flanders can look pretty bleak. And of course, we're riding through some extraordinarily poignant countryside, past all these cemeteries too. But I think at times today, in fact a lot of the time, Flanders looked beautiful. Here's that sprint again, Adam. Milan down the middle.
Sprint from the side, and I don't think it is Danny van Poppel in the middle of our screen there either.
No, you're right.
I think it's Jordi Meus right in the middle, the man that won on the Champs-Élysées. Then you got Philipsen to his right-hand side, Olaf Koy on his left, Melia just behind Jonathan Milan there, but it looked to be Jordi Meus, and then fourth and fifth, very difficult one between Philipsen and Milan.
That is interesting, isn't it? I was wrongly saying, of course, that Jordi Meus was on the front earlier doing the chasing. It wasn't him, but he takes the final step on the podium. Jordi Meus just ahead of Jasper Philipsen, Jonathan Milan, Olaf Koy, Vinny Gourmet in the top 10 again. Tim Malier was there, Dylan Groenewegen was there, and Trentin with a well-deserved top 10 place after the way he's ridden today. And there we have it. Mads Pedersen, in the end, getting the better of Mathieu van der Poel. Great sprint between those two, and then a fantastic sprint behind. But Jordi Meus, again, reminding us just how good he is. Results like that, Adam, I've heard a few people say that his win on the Champs-Élysées last year, well, you know, kind of, you know, doesn't necessarily put him up in the top step of the best sprinters in the world. But you see a result like that in front of who he's beaten at the end of a 253k race. He ain't half quick, is he?
Very quick indeed, yeah. Those hard sprints, well, the hard sprint, Champs-Élysées being a hard sprint for the end of the Tour de France, 21 days of racing on those cobbles, it's still a very, very difficult sprint, but a hard sprint like this today, he's definitely got the form, he's definitely got the legs, and it'll be the last time we see him up there as well.
I'm always keen to try and block our sprinters into different kind of classified classifications of sprinters. I'm going to add him into my file marked resilient sprinters, those who can sprint after a lot of hard work or a long 3-week tour or a long Kent Wevelgem like this. And you can see the sprint already starting behind these two as well. It was visually closer in the end than we realised. I wonder what the time... I didn't even see what the time gap was
16 seconds.
There. Thank you. Yeah. So it all tightened up, didn't it?
Yeah, these guys would have backed off in the last K, so they lost 10-15 seconds, and the group obviously will have sped up behind. But yeah, here's a replay of that sprint again. Mads Pedersen didn't even look back when he started. He was just so concentrated on himself. It was just, right, I'm going to go now. And what a sprint it was, about 270 metres out. There's a 100-metre board. There's the 50-metre board, 25-metre board. Yeah, he had it.
Wow. Yeah. And that was so hard to predict, Adam. Actually, between our predictions between the two of us, you won, of course, there, because you picked Mads Pedersen. But it is so hard to predict after a race of that length and the race that's been that hard when the two of them have been clear for so long as well. But as you say, Mads Pedersen, we've only got to look at that World Championship win in 2019, where Mathieu van der Poel was in the leading group with Mads Pedersen going into the final lap of the Yorkshire circuit, and Van der Poel's body just literally completely gave up. And in that horrific, freezing cold, rainy day of Yorkshire that you won't want me to remind you about, it was that man, Mads Pedersen. He is definitely in the categories, in the file marked extremely hardcore, fast-finishing sprinter. We'll look back at the highlights of the day, though. There were a few spills. This was the nastiest for Jan Tratnik in particular, who we believe hit his head, went through the concussion protocol testing, and thankfully was sensibly taken out of the race. We hope he's okay. No, we didn't see this. This is Narvaez. This is Jonathan Narvaez there, who crashed, by the looks of it, into one of the trees. So I hope he's all right, the Ineos Grenadiers rider. Scanning further ahead now to Mathieu van der Poel making his first move on the first ascent of the Kemmelberg. This was early action, but already the strength of Lidl-Trek very clear for people to see. Look at the numbers up there that they had. Jasper Stuyven looking so good. Jonathan Milan playing a big part in this. And then still finishing inside the top, 5 or 6 come the finish as well, in the top 10. A great day out for the Italian track star and road sprinter. This was the group at the front that then was formed after that first ascent. Then we went into the plug streets as well, and Jonathan Milan handling his bike brilliantly and still keeping the pressure off Mads Pedersen behind by being clear. Mathieu van der Poel using the ploughed streets to chase him back. Mustn't underestimate how much this ride by Jonathan Milan did today to protect Mads Pedersen. And then that brilliant ride by young Lawrence Pithy, getting into that extremely exclusive leading group. And in the end, only being distanced on the final ascent. And here it was. I'm sorry, I think that might be the second ascent, if I'm not mistaken, of the Kemmelberg. And at this point, the race was still pretty close together. Matteo Trentin there, who in the end got 10th place in this Gent Wevelgem. We had this tidy-looking move as well from Ben Turner, the British rider for Ineos Grenadiers. This was the moment at which we lost Lawrence Pithy from the leading two, and it was so close. Had that final ascent of the Kemmelberg been in the opposite direction, he might well have held on. But in the end, as it was, he was absorbed into this group with Anthony Turgis and Ben Turner. And then it came down to this fascinating sprint between these two. Jasper Stuyven Mads Pedersen, I should say, opening up early, and Mathieu van der Poel with not quite enough to come round him, knowing he was beaten. But a brilliant ride by two great champions of our sport, one former world champion and one the current world champion. And according to Pro Cycling Stats, that is Mads Pedersen's 41st victory at this level. Already an incredibly impressive list too. For those of you watching our digital coverage, there's an opportunity now to see some interviews. Hopefully one interview with our winner at the very least, Mads Pedersen, and the podium presentations as well. So do stay with us. Second time as the winner for Mads Pedersen, and we're just going to go to an interview with him right now.
Mads Pedersen, massive congratulations, your second win in Gent-Wevelgem. Let's start with the sprint. How confident were you going into that final kilometer?
Not really. Like, on one hand, I had to believe on my sprint because we couldn't start to attack each other, then the bunch will pick us up. So I had to believe that the sprint was good enough to beat Mathieu, and with the shape he showed lately, it was hard to believe, but yeah, I had to try the sprint and nothing else. So it was a gamble, and I took the front because I knew he would be happy or happy. The König would be happy if the bunch came back with Philipsen as well. So I had to keep the speed high and hope I still had the legs for a good sprint.
Also, you were the one putting pressure on the third climb of the Kemmelberg.
Yeah, again, either it would have been me or Mathieu to put the pressure there, and if I could control the tempo and not put myself over the limit, it would be more beneficial for me than letting him do it and maybe put me above the limit. So yeah, I was like, okay, I tried to ride it from here, and hopefully it would only be me and Mathieu after Kemmel the last time, and we could work together until the finish line.
Your team was excellent too, maybe possibly the strongest in the race with Milan. That was deliberate, the whole action and prep for your action?
Yeah, it was pretty good to be three guys in the front group there, and actually, yeah, Johnny, he took the first attack, and he was there for a long time alone, and that was definitely beneficial for me and Jasper. Unlucky, Jasper had a puncture on blocked streets, but in the end, it was still a good situation for us.
Does this win mean you're also one of the main favorites for the Tour of Flanders?
I don't know. Tour of Flanders it's a different race than this, and I still believe this race suits me better than Flanders, but yeah, this confirms me that the shape is definitely good, and yeah, I was happy already after the race Friday in E3 and now victory here. So yeah, I'm definitely confident for the next week.
Thank you. Can you summarize the race in your mother language, Danish, and your victory and your feelings about it?
Hårdt løb, og vi kører perfekt som hold igen, og vi supplerer hinanden. Og nu kan jeg vinde her igen, og det er jeg sindssygt glad for, at det viser, at formen er, hvor den skal være. Så det er dejligt at vinde.
Tak, Mads Pedersen.
Well, there we are. A contented Mads Pedersen, but one, Adam, notably, who was very, very aware of the threat that Mathieu van der Poel carried coming into that finish as well.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, you're going up against Mathieu van der Poel. Anyone would be nervous.
Yeah. I'm pleased to say we also got a word with Lawrence Pithy. Let's hear from the Kiwi 21-year-old, the youngster who's had a big classic step up today.
What a ride again after what you showed in Kuurne. Again, a very strong performance. But the same thing happened. You lost on the climb. Tell us.
Yeah, same thing. I just couldn't follow them when they went. My legs were really giving out, and I tried to push as hard as I could over the top to get back to them. But yeah, in the end, I just didn't have the legs. And yeah, it's becoming a theme, but I'm still young. So yeah, as I grow and mature as a rider, hopefully I'll have the legs to follow them. I'm not too far away now, so yeah.
Fortunately, you didn't have to wait so long to receive some support at the end of the race.
Yeah, when those 3 riders came across, I tried to work with them, but yeah, that peloton was flying in the end. Quick Step, Jumbo, yeah, well, Visma, they were flying. So yeah, in the end, I just didn't have the legs to sprint for the podium, but yeah, it's all right.
No regret?
No regrets. No, I gave it everything out there, and yeah, I just wasn't good enough.
Jumbo? Never heard of them. Glad to see it's not just us that get it wrong every now and again. We've got an interview with Mathieu van der Poel, no less, coming up as well. But nice to see Laurens Pithy interviewed after another great ride. He's down to ride the Dwars door Vlaanderen, but apparently not the Ronde van Vlaanderen next weekend ahead of the Giro for him.
Mathieu van der Poel, obviously Tour of Flanders is a different race, but do we have to consider Mats Pedersen now as one of the main favorites also?
Yeah, he already was for me before this win today. I mean, he's always a rider you have to take into account, and he showed today he was really strong.
Can you live with your second place?
Yeah, he was the strongest today in the race. It's a pity because I really wanted to win this one, but yeah, if somebody's stronger, it's easier to accept.
Now a week of rest, or you consider a last-minute change and a race on Wednesday?
No, I think I need some days to recover from Friday and today. I really suffered today. I'm quite done now, so I need some rest.
Thank you, Mathieu van der Poel, and congrats on a great race and result. Thank you.
Newsflash: Mathieu van der Poel is human, needs a rest. Understandably, after his win at E3 on Friday, second to Mads Pedersen here at Wevelgem, and of course, building towards Dwars door Vlaanderen and the Ronde van Vlaanderen next weekend, of course, too. Looking good, though. Adam, looking at that top 10, going from Trentin in 10th, Groenewegen 9th, Tim Merlier, Biniam Girmay. Anyone a surprise in there?
Not necessarily, really. I think it's a solid top 10. I mean, if you're going to look at the results of a race, that is a very, very good one to look at and think, crikey, that must have been a good race to have all those riders there. But no, nothing really to take away from it. But I think we're going to hear from Danny van Poppel.
So, Danny, you told us this morning you were hoping to have fresh legs for this race. It was close at the end. Maybe with a smaller gap, you could fight for victory at the end.
I did the lead out for Jordi, and he's third. So I think the goal is achieved, and yeah, third place is amazing for us.
Tell us about the sprint.
I dropped Jordi off quite a good wheel, and so yeah, it was a hectic race.
With a lot of echelons, the camel. How tough was it?
Yeah, it was super hard. I felt not great in the beginning, but afterwards I felt better and better, and yeah, I'm happy for the team. Podium is good.
Well, he mentioned Jordi Meus, and we also grabbed a word with him. We'll hear from him in just a moment. That was a lovely shot, wasn't it? Looking back across the sunshine, which is still out in West Flanders. These shots from over Popperinge. Let's hear from Meus.
Jordi Meus, being a winner on the Champs-Élysées, just how important is the third place in Gent-Wevelgem for you?
Yeah, it's a pretty important one for me. I wanted to see how far I could come in the classics this year, and yeah, to end third year behind these two motorbikes, let's say, it's quite a good result for me.
You were excellent in the echelon wars as well, because you believe you were in the front group, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I was actually the last one who jumped to the first group, so yeah, I could save a bit, and then it was yeah, all about surviving the camel.
Thank you and congrats on a nice third place. Jordi Meus.
Yeah, and there is that third place coming in from Jordi Meus. That was a really hotly contested sprint for third there. Podium place up for grabs, of course. First Belgian in one of the biggest Belgian races, of course. This Flanders Classic. Jordi Meus, that'll look very neat and tidy on his impressive Palmares. And we're readying ourselves for the podium now, of course. You can see from the layers, still not that warm in Wevelgem. That was a quick edition in the end, Adam, as well. I'm just looking at running time, 5 hours 36. The tailwind definitely helping them today. We've been ahead of schedule as well, a fair bit. Well, I think he's got a heated jacket there. Did you see that? I don't know if you noticed that, Adam. He's just opened up his jacket, pressed a little button inside it. Oh, it could be, no, he hasn't got a radio in his ear or anything like that. I'm not sure. He looked like he might be wearing some kind of heated jacket. I may have imagined that.
No, they've been around for a while, those jackets. Normally have them, obviously, in cold conditions, but yeah, little heat packs inside them.
Could do with one of them in my commentary booth, where it's normally pretty cold. I'll have to look them up. You know me, I'm always behind with these trends. There's our first step taken. First Belgian, one of two Belgians who were third and fourth. Jasper Philipsen just behind him, really up alongside him effectively in that sprint, the Alpes de Koning man. Well, the man who was the most popular pick when I went out to Cycling Twitter to ask who was going to win this race, understandably. Maybe his interview, I think there, Adam, indicating that yes, he was a bit more tired maybe than we might have anticipated from E3. He certainly looked tired while he was explaining it. He would do. You'd think so, wouldn't you? It's a big 2 days. Yeah. Hey, I like Mads Pedersen's natty Lidl shoes. Something I never thought I would say. They look sort of Lidl colours as well, don't they? They'll be in a centre aisle of your local Lidl.
They are, yeah. Dan Lloyd's got a pair.
Has he? Well, that's an instant indication of where they sit in the fashion hierarchy then. I don't think I could rock those, actually. Second win for Mads Pedersen in Gent-Wevelgem. Will he get the triple? Not many riders have done that. En dat is bij deze ook gebeurd. Hier staan ze, de nummers 1, 2 en 3. Voor de eerste mooi plechtig fotomoment. Jordi Meus als derde. Mathieu van der Poel als tweede. En de winnaar in het midden, Mads Pedersen. Jordi Meus doing his part to make sure there's definitely a Belgian on the podium at one of the biggest Belgian races. At the end of week one of these 3 brilliant weeks that take us up to Paris-Roubaix, of course, just south of where they are right now. De flessen voor Mathieu en Jordi die stonden elkaar. Pak ze gerust van spannen. Ze mogen nog wel voorgeschud worden. That's the way it flows from now on into next week with the Dwars door Vlaanderen on Wednesday, the Ronde van Vlaanderen on Sunday, and then we go into the week that includes Scheldeprijs and Paris-Roubaix. What a few weeks we are having. Applaus voor deze toppers op het podium. Wat een koers, wat een podium, wat een top 3 met Jordi Meus, met Mathieu van der Poel. There you go. You see our little advert, bottom right, slightly shorter than today, quite a lot shorter than today. Dwars door Vlaanderen, of course, midweek race, 188.6 kilometres on Wednesday. Well, thank you very much for your company. Adam, thank you once again for sharing Gent-Wevelgem with me. It's been very much my pleasure.